Wow. He's had a lot of discussions with people. Jesus, he actually has been talking to people. Good job. Good for him. Let's get some insight. Someone knows only
While I wait on thick ink. So
Sorry, what was that?
this is thick ink is how you go by.
That is how I go by, and I understand that you are Mario Supermoon, or
Yeah,
how do you like
Super Moon Mario.
Supermoon Mario. Do you want me just to call you Supermoon? Or?
Yeah, either one's fine with me.
Sweet. And just so for the sake of my stream, you go by he him, I'm assuming.
Yes, I just noticed when I clicked on your profile that you go by they them.
I do. Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Sweet. So just from my understanding, we were gonna debate Steven Crowder and H3H3, and then you wanted to go into like minimum wage, student loan stuff, BLM and ACAD, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what it leads to is whatever it leads to. I'm perfectly fine if starting off with Steven Crowder and Sam Cedar and H3 and then branching off into whatever, because from the previous conversations I've had, because I've had two so far before this one, it seems a lot of your opinion is going to depend on where you fall politically and why you believe certain ideals. So it usually ends up going to something, about BLM or ACAP or minimum wage or, those topics.
Yeah. So I'm just going to assume that you are
why?
not you're opposed to BLM, ACAB, that kind of thing.
I don't know if I would say oppose is a strong word. I approve of certain, like, police transparency. Like, I like cops, first off. Right? I don't have a problem with cops. There's bad cops. I believe the majority of them are good. I believe that the ones that are doing wrong should be investigated and prosecuted. I am in favor of certain measures that have come to light because of BLM, like in terms of like body cameras. I feel very strongly that regardless of whatever side that you fall on, body cameras, there's not really an argument against it, minus financing for the cameras themselves.
Yep.
Other measures and other rhetoric I have seen from BLM is not too good, or people representing BLM, because I can't say that every member of BLM believes in exactly the same things.
This doesn't matter.
So it's like, what do you put like oppose? What's like, are you not a fan of the abolish?
Okay.
That you're opposing. Like, if you're seeing what you're seeing. Oh, sorry. I have a bunch of people in my chat asking who you are really quick. So I've been marketing this as a Mario Twitter account. Would you? I hope that hasn't been too offensive for you too. But
no, that's fine by me. This stream they can catch it on YouTube on Super Moon Mario or on Twitch on Super Moon Mario.
Okay. Sorry. Going back. So your definition specifically. We're just gonna go by that, and I'll argue from that point of view, just to make things easy. What is your review of what abolish the police means?
Abolish the police means to me, like, let's get rid of the current structure of police officers because of problems that are occurring currently within that structure. And then I don't know their placement, depends on the person that I'm talking to. But to me, the commonality is changing the police significantly in some way in which it doesn't resemble abolish the police means to be.
So you oppose that, or is that just?
I oppose it depending on the particular person's way of restructuring the police. But the reason why I oppose the rhetoric itself is because it takes me like 10 or 15 minutes of shifting through somebody's ideas to understand what they exactly mean when they mean abolish the police. It's kind of like when someone says, like, let's eat the rich. That can fall into a bunch of different things. While commonality would be raising taxes. Some people believe in, we shouldn't even have billionaires. Other people believe that we should just keep billionaires but just heavily tax them. It becomes like so many different things.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, like, polling-wise, abolish the police isn't very popular. So I think rhetorically, if you don't want to abolish the police, you should probably, get some better vocabulary for it.
Jesus. Okay. Instantaneous.
Yeah, it's like. All right. So I'll go by. I'll describe all my opinions on what you just mentioned. Eat the rich, I guess.
I don't care.
Depending on the argument that someone's trying to make. So at that, and for people that are not able to defend themselves, like say for instance someone that's handicapped, I believe that having an armed force is good. It's actually a necessary component in our society.
What is this happening?
But the thing is, no cop wants to be the one. And as far as
cops
can make them a monopoly in any market. So when the government plays a factor, like.
So the government isn't there to make money. That's the main difference. They can become a monopoly in like any business, but they're not going to be there to make money, which means that they're going to be charging people.
I don't care.
Countries and have their own like economies, and so in my opinion, minimum wage should be set based off the state, based off how the individual people in the state want to live would be much preferential than someone in California or New York, where it's much. Because the thing is, part of it's like a perception issue, where I see people online from New York and California, and they're like, I can't believe how can you guys survive on less than $15 an hour, right? Or how do you survive? How do you even live or feed yourself in the amount of money you're making? Whereas the person that's like before living in Gainesville, or a person living like in a town in Georgia that's small and rural, where the cost of living is a lot lower, so it's easier to live on when you can earn less money than compared to like a bigger city. So in my opinion, minimum wage should be based on the individual state or the people that state vote on it, and preferential solution to a $15 minimum wage would be targeted tax credits. Whereas,
so here's one of the problems though, is that even these states with lower, like I just looked this up too because I wanted to make sure before I start saying things I'm gonna ask. Even these like southern states with lower inflation have insanely high poverty rates, where people still aren't getting paid enough. Where people still aren't getting paid enough. Poverty rates. Google War with other guys have been playing. Yeah, sorry.
Wait, actually,
didn't call it Google War.
Don't.
I don't mind.
Don't.
I don't mind.
I think I sound okay. Anyways.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah. The poverty rates in these southern states are still extremely high, so clearly something needs to get done. And that something would be paying these people more.
I do, but like, what is the goal of minimum wage, in your opinion?
goal of minimum wage is to have is in part to help ensure a living standard of living for everyone. Is also a way to try and make sure that everyone's like actually getting what they're earning. Where there's the classic graph of productivity skyrocketing but wages staying the same. That shouldn't be the case.
That's so it's a really hard thing.
I don't think they ever discuss it.
And he's probably the most educated person I know, and I think as many people as possible should be at that like status and not have to be worrying about going to debt for 50 years.
I said, let's set it up, jump into DMs. I'm glad for thinking. I'm going to give my really quick overall view and Ethan Crowder thing before I go.
Okay.
My view on Crowder is that I used to watch his content in 2016, same with H3 and H3. In my view, this is the standard Ethan from 2016. I would say, Ethan, I'd say that my bad Crowder, you're an idiot. What are you thinking? If you're going to invite like someone like an iDubbbz or a Filthy Frank on, what are you expecting? They're going to clown on you, right? But since that time, H3's kind of almost completely stopped uploading on his regular channel. He's transitioned more to podcasting. That's less risky. He earns more money from that. He's been much more open. And especially on Twitter, Ethan has been the type of person that he kind of uses political beliefs to exact a type of moral superiority. And he's a tendency to beat down on people that believe different things that he believes in. And my understanding is that Crowder showed like screenshots showing that Ethan was the one that proposed a debate to Crowder, like not opposite. I haven't seen H3 refute that point. If he has, I'm sure I'll correct it later on. But my understanding is that Ethan reached out to Crowder. They went back and forth. Ethan eventually reached out and said that, let's do a debate. Crowder accepted the debate, and they agreed upon it. They agreed on no tricks. And then Ethan, I saw like the pre-conversation footage. They're all cordial. They're talking about, Crowder's wife is pregnant. H3A3's wife is pregnant. And they seem everything's going pretty much good. And then as soon as the debate starts, Ethan says, man, boy love with the Spartans, and he brings in Sam Cedar. And my opinion is that if you agree to certain debate conditions beforehand, you should adhere to it. Would I like Sam Cedar and Crowder to do a debate? I would like to see that. I think it'd be entertaining to watch those two go at it. But I don't think that Crowder is obligated to debate Sam Cedar. I have seen some people say that due to a past skit with Crowder showing up at the Chinks from the Young Turk, his panel, that due to Crowder's past actions, like talking to college students, he should be ready to debate anyone at any time. I don't believe that's an exact A to B comparison due to the fact that when Crowder talks when
No, it's not about that. It's the fact that Crowder literally says, hey, I respect anyone who steps in the arena. It's hard for me to find lefties who will debate me. I will debate any kind of lefty, bring on AOC, he says these things and then doesn't do them. That's the problem.
These college students, it's an agreed upon thing. He says, hey, do you want to talk to me? They say yes, they say no. And I've actually seen, I haven't watched every Change My Mind, I've seen clips, but I have seen times where Crowder does, there's a crowd that's there, they form, he says, guys are trying to make it one-on-one, try not to dogpile this person I'm talking to, and I have seen him kind of go easier on the kids he's talking to face-to-face in person than per se people that he's critiquing.
Okay, this guy got the ratio right, 1/5, 1/15. Good job. Why does it keep happening? I don't know why hopefully my stream is fine. Every time it fails on my end, though. So hopefully it's not buggy. Oh, let me, since this looks like it's actually happening. Hold on. I just got to message somebody. I don't know why I'm saying this. Doesn't really matter.
In his breakdown videos on his YouTube account. I'm not a huge Crowder fanatic. I think this is one of those things, if you're more liberal or if you're an H3 fan, you came out with your side looking good, you thought Ethan did something really funny. I can see that point of view. You think that Crowder is ducking Sam Cedar and he should stop. I feel like if you're more to the right, or if you believe in more oral agreements being honored, that Ethan shouldn't have had Sam Cedar come in. But I believe in both perspectives, and I'm going to ask you to give your thoughts on this just to be fair before I dip out.
All right, to be really quick, I think that I don't know, overall, I think mostly it's incredibly funny. That's my main opinion. I think Steven Crowder is a bit of a scumbag, so I don't really have any empathy.
That's a pretty strong term.
Yeah,
scumbag.
No, my man do just kind of be saying some genuinely horrific shit a lot of the time.
I understand, but he uses I'm a comedian excuse. I've seen people play a sending of H3 he's a comedian, but
I mean, I'll say
the I'm a comedian excuse. Does it really land when you're making a political show? No, because so the I'm a comedian excuse works if you're Tucker Carlson, right? Well, no, it doesn't even work that way. But it did in law. That's what he did in law. So if Steve wants to go to the Supreme fucking Court or whatever, it's fine. Okay. Anyways, we're officially going deep. Hello.
Hello, what's going on?
Not too much. Just let me know if I sound good. And I'm gonna make sure you sound good. Not too much. Just let me know if I sound good. And I'm gonna make sure you sound good.
Oh man, I gotta
Not too much.
do
Just
the
let me know if I
thing.
sound good. And I'm gonna make sure you sound good.
Oh man, I gotta
Not too
do.
much. Okay, you sound.
I guess you can start while I put some tags in and fix
Uh,
some.
sure. I've noticed because I went just while we were waiting. Oh my god, what did I do? Anyways, while we were waiting, I just wanted to see if you actually did do any of the other. Because I saw when you're on your Twitter post there, you I'd assume you got a couple messages from people. I was pleased to see that you actually followed through on a lot of the discussions. I only caught up on about one of them, but it seems like I'll take you by your word as well that it seems like a lot of them just dove into stuff completely unrelated to the Crowder H3H3 stuff really quickly. So, I mean, like you, I don't really care if it gets into that, but at least at first, let's start with the. I know it wasn't your fault. There's the other people who were kind of just asked you about your opinions on stuff that wasn't related to the Crowder stuff. But at a bare minimum, let's at least talk about the Crowder stuff first, and then we can talk about whatever you want afterwards. But in the small snippets I got, I think I don't know if I mostly agree with you. I mean, I literally only heard snips, but there's like a little clip of you wanting minimum wage on a state level, which I totally agree with for the most part, depending on like nitty gritty of stuff, and we can get into that later. But at first, I would like to just start with the Crowder stuff, and I would like to know what your summary of the events, and then I can give mine. Unless Chris, you want me to, unless Chris, you're still sending some stuff up, so then I'll give my summary first of what I guess I think went down.
Yeah, I guess I can start. Basically, what happened. My understanding is that H3 and Crowder have been going back and forth for a couple of weeks, couple of months, having to do with the CDC guidelines, which H3 is more of the opinion of there's nothing to think about. You know, you should be following the experts. You should be doing what the CDC guidelines say without questioning, more of like not questioning it. And Crowder was opposed to that idea. And so they kind of went back and forth. And my understanding, I haven't seen H3 refute this, but Crowder has shown screenshots that H3 was the one that proposed a debate between the both of them. And that it seemed.
Sorry, go ahead. Keep going. No, keep going.
Okay, that's what it seems like to me. I haven't seen H3 side dispute that. If they have, I haven't seen it.
So I think, I was just say I think that the reason why they're not disputing that is because I think it's, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know the timestamps on those DMs, but I'm pretty sure what happened was that Crowder on his channel made a clip challenging or basically just saying that H3H, if you want to come on the show. So Crowder watches H3's clip, makes fun of him or whatever, disagrees with him. Then H3 responds back with whatever. That's when his producer Dan says debate Sam Cedar, but in that clip there's no, Ethan never makes any demands to debate Crowder. Just his producer Dan, makes the joke, debate Sam Cedar, and then I believe Crowder made another video saying, "Hey, I would like to invite you on the show." So my understanding is that was the initial invite. Then Ethan then DM'd him saying, "Yeah, I would love to do a debate if you want to. Let's set some stuff up." So of course in the DMs it looks like Ethan's the one initiating, but I think the initial initiation, I don't want to use the word too many times, but was from that Steven Crowder clip from his stream. I could be wrong. I mean, if timestamps show otherwise, that's like totally okay, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went down.
Sure thing. I'm open. Like, if there's more information out there, I'll change my opinion. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure 100% even really matters who initiated what, because at the end of the day, I think I was watching one of the other clips. You hold the opinion that like Ethan's mostly changed his content to be more political driven, and I would kind of disagree with that a little bit, just based on it's not like Ethan is not running a show like Steven is, for example, right? If we were to look at bodies of work, Sam's content lines more up with Steven's content than H3 is dead with Steven's content. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So Steven's more of a political streamer and Ethan's more of a comedic podcast host, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
And based on past videos, right? We both agree like he's the total meme show, 2016 Ethan Klein H3H3, right? The classic H3H. We know he's a jokester. So based off that, I don't really, it's kind of expected that some shenanigan would come out from Ethan accepting a debate, because we both know, and Ethan even admitted it that he's a slam dunk easy target. So now maybe Steven.
I got that argument so much in the comments.
Yeah.
First, I just gotta backtrack. How rude was I to you? Because
I don't think you were that rude at all. I think we were pretty cordial.
The thing is,
Twitter gets
there was a lot of people coming at my neck because I originally posted that thing. I didn't really expect to get any response, if anything, maybe 1 or 2 comments.
Yep.
But then Chris Raygun quote tweeted it, and I always got a preference to saying he said sorry afterwards. He didn't mean for it to happen. And I believe him. But
yeah,
I was literally
Twitter can get pretty wild, and from literally just the one clip I saw, it seems like a lot of people that wanted to actually debate you don't even really care about the Steven Crowder stuff. They wanted to just get your opinions on a million other things, which have nothing to do with it.
Usually it started off as Steven Crowder, but it really depends from person to person how important it was to them, because we kind of drifted around.
Yeah, but it's just weird to me that we would come in here trying to talk about Steven Crowder, and all of a sudden it goes into ethics debates about the minimum wage.
The reason why it drifted into there, because in my experience, your view of the situation depends on a personal level. Like if you're on the right or if you're on the left, if you like Steven Crowder as a person, if you like H3 as a person, based off my talks with people, that had a very, very big influence on how they viewed the situation. So I had to. So eventually, it always drifted into, well, you don't like Crowder because of his views on minimum wage or his views on police or his views, So eventually, drifted into that.
Yeah, okay, I can see how that happens, and and I can agree, and I can easily admit that maybe I have some form of bias there because I don't really like Crowder. I don't specifically hate him. I would say that he's definitely said some really strange stuff, and he's had some very, very, I mean, if I'm being very generous, I'll say borderline racist rants, but he's been banned a couple times, and I think there's a reason for that, but that's not really the point of this stuff. So it basically to try to drag us back into the original discussion here. I can definitely agree with you that a lot of people you were probably talking to are very blind to either side of this, but I'm going to try to convey the message here that even no matter which side of this you look at, unless of course you're a diehard Steven fan, it was a pretty embarrassing moment for Steven Crowder, just optically. Now I'm sure he can do a lot of damage control to get out of it, but from the perspective of Ethan's side, so yeah, Ethan probably yes, Ethan did use a tactic and shoehorned in a new person there, but I don't really know why you, Steven Crowder, big political commentator, right? Wants to talk to people like Noam Chomsky or the president of AOC, whatever. Wants to talk to these big people, but is also down to debate Ethan. And also he's down to debate Ethan, someone who knows nothing about politics, but isn't down to debate Sam Cedar. Now, of course, he's not under no obligation, but it's a very strange, where's your line? Sam says Steven says there's a line at popularity, basically, he said 1/20th. Sam only has a fifth of his audience, but that stuff happens, but but then so it's okay, so you want to talk to political people, because it's not like a lot of the political people he brings on, they don't have a big audience, but they're politically savvy, right? He might bring on some experts, some doctors, whatever, some political people onto a show, or he might jump onto a news network and do like some commentary back and forth with one of the other anchors, or they might bring on a political person as well. So he seems to be down to talk to political people, and or people who have a big audience. But Sam has a relatively large audience. 1 million people is nothing to shoo away. And he's also a very politically savvy person. So if you really want to get to the nitty gritty and debate about the ideas, then why not? Yes, Ethan, brought in a third party. It seems a little bit unfair, but you should be able to take that like head on and fight through it if that's really if this is really like the hill you want to die on, if this is really what you think and this is really your highest ideas and this is what you do for a living. It's a little bit strange to kind of duck out of I get what could be an easy debate, or at least a debate you can handle quite easily.
My view on it is this, right? I think it'd be interesting if Sam Cedar and Crowder had a debate.
Mm-hmm.
I would tune in it. I think Steven, depending on the topic, could hold his own against Sam Cedar. But at the same time, I don't think that like you said before, I don't think he's really obligated. I think he has the will to choose whoever he wants to debate. At the same time, I believe that does open him up to fair criticism for who he chooses to and not to debate. So if someone's of the opinion that he's ducking Sam Cedar, I'm not going to argue with them on that. You can make that argument legitly. My contest in the comments was that people saw this as a giant win for H3H3, and that a lot of people were making an excuse. In my opinion, I'm more of like honoring like gentleman agreements. Like if you guys talk in DMs and say, hey, there's no tricks, it's going to be one-on-one, no one's going to interrupt, let's work out a schedule. And that if you pick to debate someone that has an advantage, right, doing it for a living, like you said, that's not an excuse, in my opinion. If Ethan really wanted to have an honest debate, all he would have had to do is just get some research, or even have it spoon fed to him.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask this.
Let's
say that Sam was wired into Ethan's ear, and let's say Ethan was literally saying everything Sam said verbatim.
That I wouldn't like, but
so why wouldn't you like that? Is it because it's just not? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Because you're still taking the ideas direct, like within a live setting from somebody else. What I would have preferred is if Ethan had been coached.
Yeah,
I prefer that's coaching as.
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, that's basically been Ethan's position the whole time, right? The reason why Ethan said he said about the CDC is because Ethan's position is, hey, I don't know shit about fuck. Okay, I don't know if you care if I swear or not.
Good.
I don't know shit about diseases or fucking coronavirus or anything, or about any medical bullshit. So I'm gonna leave it up to the body of doctors that we have, at the CDC. They'll tell me what I need to do, and I'm just gonna follow it because I don't know anything. Okay.
Doctors believe a lot of things.
Yeah, I know, but that's why there's a body of people. That's why the CDC is built up of a body. It's not just one doctor. It's a body of doctors that gather all their information the same way the HWO does, the same way, fucking any kind of research body. If you go to Pfizer, the same reason, how they built the vaccine from the ground up isn't just one guy inventing the thing. It's a group of doctors that come together, pool all their research together, and come up with an idea.
And there's plenty of criticisms for people, the WHO and for the CDC.
Yeah.
I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but remember, traditionally at first it's like you don't have to wear a mask, you don't need a mask, and then the people that wear masks, it's like, oh, you guys are stupid, right? CDC says you don't wear a mask, and as soon as CDC says wear a mask, you're gonna flip on your head. And even in regards to the CDC,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna talk about like the way the CDC kind of treated vaccines, like when they first came out, and like the Biden administration in general, where it seemed like there was a big reluctancy from the government to lower down the mask mandate when vaccines were rolling out. And it seems like they only started to do that when vaccine rollout started to stall.
Oh,
because the whole, like
so
like
they're tearing down the mask mandates as the vaccines plateaued. Is what you're saying? Just to clarify.
that's what it seemed to me.
Okay, so I'm not sure if
Maybe
those
I'm
things are.
wrong, but it seemed to me like vaccines were starting to slow down, and
Yeah.
then
So the reason
the
why
government's
vaccines.
like, go ahead.
So yeah. So I mean, we'll take this into parts, but I'll quickly go on this one. The reason vaccines, plateau, is because of public interest. Basically, the government can't force you to take a vaccine. The government, maybe the Biden administration needs to do another like round of advertisement to kind of push the vaccine. But then again, you still get into controversies about that, right? Stephen would be the first person to scream like, "Oh, the government's trying to force you to get a vaccine." So public interest is a big part in the vaccine. So when it plateaus, it's just a sign that the vaccine interest is plateauing. It's not that the Biden administration isn't doing anything. As for mass mandates dropping, mass mandates should drop as the vaccine rates, increase. So I think what you guys are at like 50 something ish percent, right? Around in the United States. So some level of mass mandates can drop, and then the states kind of can decide that, because I don't even think that the federal mass mandate only really has jurisdiction within like federal buildings, basically. So and it's just a suggestion to the other states. So after Biden says like, hey, if you got like a good amount of population, that's vaccinated and you want to drop your mask mandates, go for it. And then the states decide if they've had enough of their population vaccinated, and then they can, remove some of their, or whatever, like they decide to do.
Well, my criticism isn't with that, right? That's perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
My criticism is that from jump, the message should have been, hey, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask.
Okay, but the problem with that is,
but that didn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, because the problem with that is that we have a lot of stupid people in the world. So what happens is that you say, hey, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't need to wear your mask. How do you prove that someone's fully vaccinated? So then a bunch of people start taking off their masks and saying I'm fully vaccinated when they're not. And
that's what happened anyway.
Yeah,
people are still complaining about like the mask mandate being lowered, because there's what do you call it? The business are saying you shouldn't come in without a mask, but they're not checking like your vaccination cards. So I mean, it worked out to be the same thing.
Well, wait. So would you like there to be masks on, or would you like there not be masks on if you're? Because there's like I would prefer if, even though, I'm vaccinated, I have one vaccine. I need to get the second one soon. I'm gonna still wear a mask until like almost until we have herd immunity, basically, from the vaccine, because I don't want to risk, even though I won't feel any symptoms or anything, I can still test positive and pass it on to somebody else. In the same vein that if I might be completely vaccinated, let's say I'm 100% vaccinated, I would still prefer that there is a mask mandate in place, because it curbs people who who would otherwise lie and just not wear their mask, period, without having any vaccine.
All right. Would you, in your world, would you, I guess I got to clarify something, because I sound like I'm an anti-vaxxer, anti-masker. I think that you should wear a mask if you're not vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
I wore a mask when I wasn't vaccinated, and even when I was vaccinated, because I've had my 2 shots, I had Moderna, I wore my mask until the 2 weeks after you're vaccinated, because apparently that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
But I haven't worn my mask since. In your terms of mask mandate enforcement, would it be on the side of businesses or on the side of the government, like enforcing it?
Well, I mean, the government's force can only go so far anyway. So yeah, I don't want some form of like authoritarianism where the government's demanding that you wear a mask. I'm pretty sure the government's mandates are just suggestions for businesses, unless of course it's federal property. So however they're working right now seems to be the way they should correctly work. I don't want any more than how they are currently being implemented. Unless of course there's something I'm missing, that they are like you will get federally arrested if you're not wearing them. I don't think that's the case. I could be wrong. I don't think the FBI would show up to my house if I wasn't wearing a mask at the Walmart. But the Walmart will kick me out, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like, and for clarity,
those.
I don't think you're some kind of anti-vaxxer. I'm sure uh, will
I
mostly
know.
be highly.
I'm just
Yeah,
future proofing it in case like in the future anyone's like, well, oh man, this guy like 2 years ago was against vaccines.
yeah,
I'm
for sure.
very
No, no problem.
pro-vaccine.
Yeah, no problem. And all I would say is that basically it's just to curb like the stupid people from taking off their masks and lying about it when they you still need to have your mask on. So having a mask mandate in place while that's going on is like I want to live in a world that you live in, right? Where people, you get your vaccine, you can just take your mask off, and all the people you walk over and Joe Schmo's there doesn't have his vaccine. He's like, oh man, I still got to wear my mask, but in 2 weeks I'll be fully vaccinated. I can take this thing off. But sadly, we just don't live in that world where people, actually listen. There's a lot of people in the world that will take at their first glance or first chance, they will remove that mask as fast as possible. And if it requires them to lie, they will lie about it. So
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with that. That's
yeah,
completely true. And I'm a big personal freedom guy. Um, like your freedom to do what you want as long as it doesn't like hamper on somebody else or doesn't present some type of danger.
yep,
Uh, and vaccines usually get a lot of controversial in terms of people that believe that
yep,
because a lot like for a lot of places like outside of like having the pandemic, like in regards to school, you're supposed to be vaccinated, I believe,
yep.
like for grade school, and it becomes like a big thing. So like for me, for instance, even though I'm a big personal freedom person, I believe that if you are going to a public school, that the government can require you to do vaccinations,
Yeah, perfect. I totally agree.
right?
Yeah.
In terms of the best interests of the other students that are there.
Yeah, and
At least
it's
that's
also
my belief.
yeah, it's public property, right? So it's government owned, so they have the same way Walmart has the right to kick you out if you don't wear a mask. Same way the government has the option to kick you out of their federal property, basically. I mean, technically, I guess schools would fall under state property, or uh, I forget the name. God damn it! Like I don't know, zoning property, whatever. But city property potentially as well. So yeah, I 100% agree that um,
Like I don't know Olaf Crowder's his conduct in regards to talking about vaccines. I've heard from people online that it hasn't been the best, that it's kind of bordered on the edges of being anti-vaccine and
it,
not being of like a healthy speculative.
Yeah, so I think mostly I'm not 100% sure either of his rhetoric on vaccines. I think his rhetoric on masks and social distancing have been a little bit worse than vaccines. I don't think he's taken a hard stance on, don't take the vaccine. I've heard more about, he just doesn't really care if you wear a mask or not. He seems to want to go against anything the CDC has said. So, oh yeah, I guess to bring this back a little bit, when we were talking about before, the CDC originally has said like, oh, don't wear a mask, and then they changed their opinion. The reason for that was because originally there was basically an N95 shortage, or at least an N95, like there wasn't a big surplus. So they wanted to make sure that the frontline workers had masks first, so they basically white lied and said, don't wear one because you don't need to. You can get a cloth if you want to or whatever, like, something else can work, but don't wear medical masks. Of course, they should have been up front and just said like, "Hey, we need this stuff for healthcare workers, so don't wear one." But again, I can easily see where that goes the wrong way. Where what happens is they say, "Hey, these masks really work. They work really well. They're super effective, but we need to keep them for healthcare workers." And then all of a sudden, people just run out and buy as many as they can, and it runs out for healthcare workers anyways. Because I don't see. We talk about respecting healthcare workers now, and there's people clapping and everything for all the healthcare workers. But I bet you at that time, people were stealing fucking goddamn toilet paper for months straight. So
Yeah, that was crazy.
so the CDC saying that masks are effective off the gun without a large surplus of masks would easily run into mask pandemonium, and frontline workers. I can easily see frontline workers not having the required PPE solely
Yeah,
because of that.
I did hear about what you just said about like the white lie,
Mm-hmm.
but the problem is that when the government does do something like that,
Yep.
the government gives an excuse to people to say, "Hey, the government lied to us. They admitted that they lied to us. The CDC admitted that they lied to us. So we trusted the CDC then, we don't have to wear a mask." not a CDC later comes out and admits that we should have been wearing masks the entire time. And it's understandable. It's a tough choice in the CDC, right? It's a pandemic. It's a limited amount of supplies. Part of it falls into the problems of today's time in America, where we're a service industry, and a lot of the manufacturing gets done in like Mexico or in China. And of course, China got hit really, really hard by coronavirus initially. So there's a supply shortage right now.
Yep.
So in the best interest of the country, better to convince them, why, and reserve like the PPE for frontline workers. They're going to end up needing it more than the average person. That makes sense in an overall like utilitarian view that we're doing this in the best interest of the people. And that's a tough choice to make, right? It's a really tough choice to make. I can see both sides in that argument, but that does give an excuse for people.
Yeah, I agree that there is an excuse there, but the excuse is very weak because the CDC admitted that they lied to you, so like they're back to being trustworthy when someone tells you it's like, hey, we made a little lie there just to save this stuff, and you agree that it's like it was on a utilitarian perspective that it's the right choice to make. So they're not. So
you can make that argument that it is. Yeah. There's wrong and rights on both sides of that.
I know, but what I'm saying is that the wrongs lean more on like Crowder's side, because what Crowder seems to like to do is that it's like, oh, because the CDC lied here, therefore I will never trust them again.
That's the risk you play. I'm not saying. I think.
But what I'm saying is that
you shouldn't do that. I'm going to criticize him for that. You shouldn't do that, but the government knows that by lying, you're going to have that reaction.
Yeah, by a small like portion of people, hopefully. Obviously they're doing some, mitigation. Of course, the risk of people not trusting the CDC ever again outweighed the risk of not having enough PPE for frontline workers, I guess, what we're saying. So yeah, so they did some risk management. They didn't really care about that, but what I'm saying is that Crowder on a large platform, like I understand what you're saying from individuals. Like if an individual was just like, fuck it, CDC, fuck them, like I would call them, I'd be like, like that's a kind of, naive take. And, you're not really looking ahead too much in the future because, science changes all the time. That's basically like saying, when, who was it, fucking Copernicus or whatever, came out with the heliocentric model, you would have just believed the geocentric model for years to come, just solely because, like, it's a change in science. It's kind of like the feeling I get from Crowder is that when science changes, which science does all the time, I will not believe the change because it's so different than the original opinion, right? So the CDC comes out with don't wear masks, then they change to do wear masks.
Well,
that's such a radical
a little
change.
Different. A little different because it wasn't a change in like medical opinion. It was the government fully knowing what's going on and then lying about it. A little bit different. I understand what you're saying, but
there was the shortage of masks, but at the same time, we also didn't 100% understand the coronavirus. It was very novel at that point. So, I'm pretty sure the CDC mostly thought it was from water droplets, and we didn't fully understand that it was air soluble and therefore an airborne virus. At the time, it was mostly considered a surface kind of dwelling virus, where you would cough on the surface.
In terms of like institutions, right? Earlier we mentioned, the CDC, the WHO. The WHO at the initial start of coronavirus did not do a very good job of the way they handled the information that came from China. Yeah, in terms of like scrutiny, there was a lot of problems. There's even like a tweet from like back in like I think like January from China saying that the coronavirus could not be transferred from person to person. And obviously, it wasn't true then, and China was lying. And it seemed like the WHO, I'm not sure if you've seen the video. There's a video of a person talking to a representative from the WHO about like Taiwan, and the moment the person she mentions Taiwan, and the guy's like, what did you say? He pretends he didn't hear her, and then she mentions Taiwan again. And then he like cuts out of them like his video feed. Yeah. And then like they call back into him and he's like, "Oh, you mean China?" Right?
Yeah. So that's like, I mean, we can probably just ignore that because that's like some weird politics stuff dealing with China. I wouldn't even be surprised if that guy, I don't know where that guy was taking an interview. I know, but
You
China's a
can't
very
ignore it because we're getting our information directly from the WHO, and that's part of
yeah.
how the CDC built its guidelines, so it's directly
Yeah,
related.
but let me
And
give you
so
let me
when
give you
there's
an
a
analogy.
conflict of interest,
Let me
go
give you
ahead.
an
Go
analogy.
ahead.
Let's say I am China, okay? I'm China and I'm holding an so you're here conducting research. I have something. It's a cat. Okay, I tell you it's a cat. The cat is orange. And right, you're getting all this information and this orange cat is on a fucking rampage, okay? Coming straight for Paris with an atom bomb strapped to its back. Okay, I give you all this information. What do you do with that information? As the WHO or like some government body. I've told you as the government of China that I'm sending an orange cat with an atom bomb strapped to its back.
If I'm China and I tell
No,
WHO
I'm
that I'm
China.
sending them,
I'm
okay,
China. You're the WHO. I've told you this information that there's a cat coming towards Paris with an orange cat with an atom bomb strapped to its back. I would assume that you, as the WHO, would go and tell Paris that you might have a nuke coming towards you.
well, I would warn Paris first about the possibility,
Yep.
and then
And
I
you would
would
hopefully
investigate it.
yeah, but you would also probably take precautions against an atom bomb coming towards Paris. Correct?
Yeah, I would warn Paris, say take precautions just in case,
Yep.
and then I would ask China for more evidence.
All right. And then China comes back, and it turns out it's a black cat, and the black cat is carrying some TNT instead of a atom bomb. It's not as or sorry, actually no. I should reverse the analogy. Originally the cat was holding TNT and now it's holding an atom bomb, okay? And the analogy being that, the virus cannot be transferred via surfaces, and now all of a sudden it's fucking airborne. Okay? So now you've been given new information. Yes, China's probably untrustworthy, but you have to use the information given to you. Sorry, I fucked up the analogy there a little bit.
Yeah,
But
no problem. I get it.
yeah.
I think it's a good analogy overall. I think it's accurate. Some degree, China said that hey, something's going on, but it's not too bad, and we got under control. It can't transfer the people.
Like
Blow
they're
over a
trying to
couple
hide
of
it. Like
weeks.
China's trying to hide it as much as they can, and they were doing a really good job of it. That fucks the rest of the world. But what are you going to do as the WHO? You can't fucking send anyone into China because they'll probably just get abducted. And
The problem is, it's like, what is the purpose of the WHO, right? Like, this is the whole reason why it exists in the first place, is to take care of things like this. And if the WHO can't be trusted to handle China, what does it say about the
well,
organization
how
as
do
a
you want it to
whole?
handle China? Because the WHO, besides just asking them what's going on, if the WHO sends like an agent in there, they don't even have funding to do this. I don't know where you get this covert ops funding from. Mostly because it's the WHO is a global body made up from people around the world. So like we might want for example, WHO, I'm pretty sure China has a seat in like the board of directors or whatever the fuck. So for the WHO to have the ability to investigate China would have to agree to that investigation basically in a roundabout way.
They eventually did have one, but there were so many restrictions
Yeah.
on what the WHO team could see or do that it just was pretty much useless.
Yeah, but that's not the WHO's problem. That's the fact that we live in a world where if you want you want an international body of something. Let's say we want to make if you want to make an international body for everything, international body for trade or whatever, you have to go around to each country and they all have to agree to parameters. So of course China's never going to let you, even if it's something about trade, they're not going to let you look inside of their, factories or anything like that. They might look like, okay, you can look here, you can do some digging over here, here's our quotas and stuff. They'll give you the information they want to give you, but no more. And there's not much you can do about that unless of course you are starting to send spies into China, which would increase
I
world
think that
tension.
I think we definitely. I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but I think that every major country has spies or like
Yeah, you're right. But what would happen? Let's say I bet you I'm going to agree with you, but it doesn't really go anywhere because let's say America did have a spy in China and they actually discovered the coronavirus a week earlier than anyone else. They couldn't bring that information to light because then it reveals that there's a spy in China.
Well, we could. I think there's a way we could have handled it. Maybe not bring it to light, as in like, hey, China, we have a spy in your country, whatever, like
Well,
that.
let's say this. Say let's bring
But
another analogy into this. I know, yeah, don't be that direct, obviously. But let's say we send a spy into China, and that spy is doing whatever in China, and all of a sudden the United States starts building you know, missile defense systems on the western seaboard. It's like, okay, why is the United States doing that? And we don't know, like, China doesn't know there's a spy in there, and America's not admitting there's a spy in there, but you're building defenses against something. So, like, in terms of coronavirus, if it turns out that we have a spy in the United States and they're feeding information back to the United States, like, hey, start wearing masks and stuff like that, the moment a mask mandate goes in, when there's nothing going on, like, the gig is up. Someone knows something. Right? Like, what do? You have a spy in China. They're feeding you fake information. Your spy gives you the real information that, hey, it's not, you can actually get the coronavirus from the air. It's an airborne virus. We have to start wearing masks. You put on all the mandates from your spy, the gig is up. China knows, because it's like, hey, we didn't give that information out. How did the information that it's air soluble get out? We're the only people with the virus right now. How the fuck does the States know? Oh, there must be a spy.
well, my understanding is that Taiwan was giving information to the WHO that China may not be telling the truth about the reports to the WHO in concerns to coronavirus.
Yeah.
And that the WHO kind of rejected the info coming from Taiwan due to the influence of China.
Yeah, and that's possibly true, but then why didn't the CDC do anything about it? The CDC is an independent body from the WHO that the United States controlled under, Donald Trump's presidency, right? So
it seemed like the CDC was very heavily invested in getting advice from the WHO on what it should do next.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, hey, WHO, you guys are working with so many other countries. You guys are working more directly with China than we are. What information are you getting? What guidelines should you be doing? And, in a perfect world, it makes sense, right? WHO is working closer with China than the CDC, so they're privy to information that we may not have. So they would know more about handling the coronavirus than we do. But I do think that we kind of took for granted how much influence that China really had over the WHO.
Yeah, potentially. But how does that come back to don't believe the CDC when their guidelines change? Right? So yeah, maybe the WHO was being influenced too much by China. That's more of a hit on China and more of a hit on a little bit of a hit on the WHO. Maybe you need to boost some some measures there, but again, you would have to go through China to get that.
I'll tell you like how some of these people think. It's kind of like, well, China is already a dishonest country. They're a propagandist machine. They have a bunch of human rights violations. They commit like a genocide of the Uyghur Muslims, and then, a pandemic or people are getting sick. And then, they feed wrong information to the WHO, and there's a conflict of interest here and there and influence there. Wait, let me finish my point. I'm saying, like, not what I think, but like what these people think.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, the CDC is getting information from the WHO, and the information might be wrong to begin with because it's from a bad country, and the CDC actually lies to us about it. So they're playing like a like the correlation causation thing, where it's like it's a bad country, this organization messed up, our organization messed up, I don't know what's going on, so I don't believe anything. I don't believe that. I think that the CDC did get better, especially like more down the line as we got further into coronavirus. But like that initial kind of start kind of poisoned the well of a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's just a sad, reflection on having not enough information and being tasked with the Herculean task of stopping a virus. A virus is there. You have no idea what the fuck its capabilities are. You have no idea how the fuck it's transferred. What do you do? Right? Like, even if I'm like, we're lucky that China gave us any information at all. If they are some massive, well, I was gonna say corporatist, but propagandizing, fucking shitty nation that has human rights violations. We're lucky that we got any information at all. And even if all of that information was untrue, which I don't think it was, I think some of the information was at least somewhat honest. What do? You know a virus is coming. You're the CDC. Trump doesn't even believe in it at the time. How do you proceed? And I don't really blame them for fumbling when you've got nothing really to work with. You don't have a solid.
My understanding.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'm being rude. You're the guest.
Okay.
You finish your point.
I was just gonna finish up with I don't know what you can do when you have so little at your hands. We don't know how it's transferred. We don't know how it's what its capabilities are. Can it kill people? What age group can it kill people? You don't have no idea about any of this stuff until it lands in your country, or we get information from China at the time, right? So,
my understanding from that Trump quote was that he wasn't calling the coronavirus itself a hoax, but was saying that the Democratic reaction to the virus was a hoax to stop him from being reelected.
Yeah, I don't really care
blowing
about Trump's,
up the danger of it.
Yeah, I don't really care about Trump's words. I'm caring about Trump's actions, right? So he doesn't, his actions throughout the coronavirus have been subpar at max. Well,
I'll agree with you that overall, whether it's Trump, whether it's your local governor or the senators, the congressman, I think there's blame to go all around. I think it's a very, very good argument that it's a federal issue. It's a pandemic, it's affecting the entire country. So the federal government deserves the most amount of blame. And who runs the federal government? It's the president, it's Trump.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So if someone's saying that, Trump deserves the most blame for coronavirus, that's a good point to make. I'm not going to argue with that. But I will say that there's two things that he did do good besides, I think there could have been a lot of better rhetoric around coronavirus in terms of him doing a lockdown him doing a travel ban on China initially, which Fauci later confirmed did help contribute to lowering the spread a little bit, despite opposition from many people in the country.
Yep.
Even his challenger Joe Biden, and him helping with Operation Warp Speed, in which we developed, I believe, the fastest vaccine in modern history.
Yep.
Like in terms of a year. So I'll give him credit on those two things. But overall, in terms of rhetoric, in terms of the Wuhan virus, the Kung Fu flu, I don't believe he directly wanted violence to occur from that. But that's what happens when you do negligent rhetoric. In terms of things contact tracing, the government not really getting on that. I think there's plenty of blame to go around in terms of the way that Trump performed during the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you that Operation Warp Speed was very good. And then I don't know the specifics, but I'll take your word on it that closing travel ban on China was effective, especially if Dr. Fauci admits it too. But yeah, like you said, that's two things out of many, many, many things he did throughout the coronavirus year. So and then again it comes back to, because this is what H3H and Ethan kind of got on top of. It's so because of all of that we just talked about, right? The federal government, all this stuff, why is it that
we ignored something?
Huh?
I think a huge component of this was the lockdowns. You would not believe, of the response that people on the right have. I think people I think lockdowns had a big part to play of people's response to the WHO, China CDC and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, you coop people up at home, they're gonna start thinking wild thoughts. I mean, but
in terms of a lot of people online, in these alt-right circles, kind of got really conspiratorial on the government lockdowns. Government's trying to control us. They're using the virus as an excuse.
Yeah.
Look what China's doing. They're a communist country. They're trying to make us more like China. Globalists.
Yeah, but we both agree that that's a very big conspiracy. So I'm wondering how because that's those types of people are closer to Crowder's fan base than to Ethan's fan base. So I'm wondering, how does this tie back into Steven Crowder not believing the CDC?
Well, I have to see his videos to know whether or not he's believing it or whether he's giving like a healthy criticism of it. I've seen a lot of people say that it's the former, not the latter.
Yeah.
But I would have to go. I haven't watched Crowder videos in years.
Yeah, it would be a lot of digging because Crowder does this nice thing where he sandwiches his very small talking points between his like 1.5 hour show, uh, which is annoying because even with the Ethan H3H3 debate, there's like that show where he shows the debate happening was like an hour and a half long, and then the whole thing took place in like 45 minutes. So I good luck, but yeah. From the clips I've seen, the rhetoric has been basically CDC said this thing, then they changed their mind. So they're untrustworthy, so I'm not going to trust them at all, and I'm just not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to stay home. I'm going to keep my business open, not follow the mask mandate. We'll do some social distancing. I'll wash my hands, but, I'll get my vaccine, but I'm not going to wear my mask in the workplace. I'm going to keep my business open, blah, blah, blah. That was kind of the gist of kind of what I was getting from Crowder is how he took it was, hey, the CDC lied to us, so I'm not going to really trust anything they say further from that point.
What is your opinion on how the lockdowns were handled in America?
Well, I mean, you'd have to go state by state, I guess, right? So it seems like, at first, everywhere it was handled pretty poorly. But again, I can argue that comes from a top-down perspective where you don't really have clear guidance from the big man at the top. So how do you really go about, dictating your own state? So for New York, for example, right, Trump is saying, fuck it, whatever, keep everything open, keep businesses open, let stuff flow. We won't let this virus tackle us. It'll be gone in a week. There's only 15 cases in the states, blah, blah, blah. That's the initial stuff. So New York is like, well, I guess we'll stay open, because like, what's the point of locking down if I'm just gonna everyone's just gonna yell at them because all New Yorkers would be like, well, why are we locking down? No one else isn't locking down. So New York stays open. New York's a very big travel hub, so people from all over the world fly in, spread the coronavirus around, and then they're the big first red spot. And then as the coronavirus kind of take place and goes on, we see that as, New York and other big travel hubs lock down more, their numbers start to crash, and things start to level off. But more rural areas that don't get as much travel, but are more, anti-mask, anti-lockdown and stuff like that, their numbers start to spike big time because they are, opposed to the, guidelines and lockdown procedures and stuff like that we know works from examples of New York and California. Now, of course, California is we can go into the nitty gritty of details of lockdowns of it, because California seems to be in New York, a very unique, kind of weird thing where LA is super heavily locked down, but yet the numbers around the state are still crazy. And so who really knows what the fuck was happening in California? But it seems like for the most part, New York did strict lockdowns, leveled things off, and then, followed the same kind of pattern that places like New Zealand and Australia did, where they do strict lockdown, get the case at the zero, open up, one case comes in, strict lockdown again, cases disappear, go back to normal. So,
Well, I think that it's a little. I hear New Zealand brought up a lot, and I think it's a little easier. Though I will give them credit, but I think it is a little easier to handle a lockdown, doing a comparison of population size and the fact that it's much easier to close off travel due to the fact that you're on an island.
yeah, for sure. But then you can look at, so then it's so then I guess you would scratch off Japan's take as well, but could you scratch off Korea's? Because Korea is part of, right next to China on a peninsula.
Like South Korea.
South Korea.
Yeah, South Korea handled it good from the start. I think that plays into not the not trusting China part, in the WHO. But and doing it a just in case, it's worse than what's being reported, which is good on them. They did handle it really, really well. Regards to the lockdown, my opinion is that I wasn't a huge fan of the way the lockdowns were handled. In my opinion, businesses should have been allowed to institute mask mandates like they did, based off CDC recommendations, but that businesses should never been closed down. I was not a fan of this aspect where small businesses, like small grocery stores, could be closed down, yet big box stores like Publix or Walmart or Costco could remain open due to being essential businesses. I wasn't a huge fan of that, and I think like there seemed to be like this disconnect of understanding with a lot of people online saying that, oh, you want someone to die for a haircut, right? You want someone to
Yeah.
die so you can go, to a nightclub. And I didn't really see it that way, due to the fact of like now we see in hindsight that you closed down these businesses for months due to coronavirus. You have George Floyd that ended up being unfortunately killed by a police officer unjustifiably, in my opinion.
Yep.
And you had rioting in a lot of these places. So a lot of these places had businesses closed down for months, then had them destroyed over rioting. And what do these people get? Maybe an SBA loan,
Yeah.
maybe 2 checks in the mail or 3. Like if you're like the thing is, if the government is going to close down your business, saying that we are stopping you from working, then they have to compensate you. They have to compensate you adequately for doing that, and the government didn't do it.
Yeah, and I 100% agree that the government should have compensated. You should have went. So, like, my opinion is that you go into a strict lockdown. You try to get things over as quickly as possible to mitigate the damage, and then you pay people to stay at home, basically, right? You pay the businesses, whatever, and then you can reopen stuff up quickly. And that's just not what happened. And the problem is that the rhetoric, to bring this back to Steven Crowder and stuff like that, is that the rhetoric, so you're saying that, and I totally agree, one-sided of the rhetoric is like you want people to die for a haircut. I think that's pretty extreme. I don't think, wanting I need a fucking haircut. Okay, the haircut place has been closed for quite a while now, and I'm a lazy person, so I don't get a haircut for like 6+ months. So like add another 3 months on top of that, basically.
Yeah, it's more about the person that does the hair cutting not being able to go to work
Yeah.
and like earn his living.
Well, and I agree. So what should happen is that you close down all these places and you pay them. Now, Trump government would have never have done that, and they didn't do that, right? So, but what I'm saying is that the rhetoric from Steven's side is that, so you have the rhetoric from one side. It's like, oh, you want people to die for a headache, but Steven's rhetoric is basically, that lockdowns are, the government trying to control us. Not as conspiratorial as some, like, the people were talking about before, but, government lockdowns are a farce, and they want us to control us, and they want, small businesses to die, and they want, they want big businesses to take over. That's like the point of these lockdowns, is that they're just crushing small businesses and giving billionaires, way more money. That's what they're really doing this for, is to, get billionaires even more money. Mask mandates are like a farce. As long as you're social distancing and stuff like that, wear a mask inside. But like, LA told us to wear a mask outside. That's bullshit. I'm just not gonna wear my mask at all. Like, that's kind of typically the rhetoric from like a Steven side. So everything you said there is I mostly 100% agree with it, right? That, businesses should have closed, people should have been paid to stay home, but that's not what happened. And Steven Crowder's rhetoric was basically doubling down on that, where instead of keeping people home and paying them, it's everyone do whatever the fuck you want. The coronavirus is basically not even here.
Yeah, if he was like that, like you're saying, then obviously that's irresponsible. Obviously, he deserves some criticism for that.
Yep.
Right. Definitely. I think a lot of people got this impression of me that like online on Twitter that I'm like some giant Steven Crowder like fan, and I'm this big time H3H3 hater. I hate his guts. I used to watch H3H3 and Crowder back around 2016. I haven't watched like either of their content in years. Um, but yeah, I'm open to criticizing. Like I'm more like even minded like about these things. Like I give credit where credit is due and criticism where I think it's justified. And definitely if Steven Crowder is negligent in his views like that, he obviously deserves some criticism.
Yeah, and I think we both agree on that. And then and that's just in terms of rhetoric. And then if you want, we can talk about a bit more like, if If because I'm sure we'll agree with it, because it doesn't seem like you're that much of a diehard fan. Basically, now from Twitter, obviously things get a little bit inflated. There's no context to any, like, there's no voices, so I can't get your like tonage and stuff yet. So people might take what you're tweeting out is like you basically screaming it or whatever. So I can understand that people might think you're a diehard Crowder fan, but it's clear that you're not exactly that. But the general consensus, from my opinion, is that unless of course you're a diehard Crowder fan, that whole interaction was very embarrassing towards him, because he wants to put up this wall of like, oh, I can barely get leftists on my shows to debate, or liberals or whatever on my show to debate, and yet here's one right there, and he's doing his best to get out of the situation.
The thing is that, like I said at the beginning, this is one of those things where if you're a Steven Crowder fan, you're not gonna stop watching him.
Oh, for sure.
If you're an
H3
H3
more of a
fan,
diehard fan, and if you're an H3
I don't
fan,
even
yeah,
think,
probably not. Well,
I don't even think his casual fans are gonna care that much.
I think his casual fans
all they're gonna
will care
do,
that much. Mostly because if I look in the comment sections, there's a lot of people, saying like, "Oh, bro, like just debate him. You know who he is. Like, let's just go debate him. Like, it's easy. Squad W, Klappa. Like."
I understand that, but all Crowder has to do is land on the fact that H3 agreed to debate me one-on-one. He broke the agreement, so I have no obligation to debate Sam Cedar.
Yeah,
right?
And that would be true if there wasn't this whole body of rhetoric behind it, where
I understand, but like leaning on that, that's a good enough excuse, I feel like, for Crowder and his fans, to which like a week from now, I mean, he's still going to be averaging the same views. He's still going to have a huge fan base, still going to be earning a lot of money. I don't think this is like, I don't know if you watch like political commentators, like the Surfs TV was like, oh, this is the end of Steven Crowder.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think that. I don't think it's going to be the end of Steven Crowder. He'll probably gain about a million or 500,000 subs from this or something like that. But
like his controversy like gets attention.
Yeah, and that's he like as he's gotten banned like 3 times in the past year, and every single time he got banned, understanding is that he gained like a million subs.
They're not like full bans. They're like ban on advertising or like ability to make money on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, regardless, he stopped. What I mean, I guess, is that for 3 times this year, I think he has stopped streaming for like months on end. I think he's had like I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but I think he's had like 3 like comeback streams basically, where he'll start streaming, he'll say something controversial, he'll get demonetized and like a strike on his account. So then if he gets one more strike, his account gets permanently deleted. So he stops streaming until that, or stops doing anything until that's gone. Then that's gone. He came back and then got another controversy, and then did the same cycle again. I think he's did that 3 times now.
Well, I think it's like a twofold thing. I think part of it is that you could say, make an argument, maybe it's baiting. Because, saying that, hey, I got banned, it's everyone's like, Steven Crowder got banned. It's like, who's Steven Crowder? Like, this big guy, he got banned. YouTube's unjustified, let's get together,
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, he gained like a million subs every time. Like, every time he did that, he gained like an extra million subs.
And part of it, you can make an argument maybe, is that it's to help incentivize people to go to his actual website. Because, like, this is a common thing now. Like, make your own website, get your own subscription platform. I think they call it like the Mug Club, where like you can like subscribe to get like bonuses from his website. And I have seen, I don't know if Crowder's doing this, but I have seen people in the past use a YouTube ban to steer people towards their personal subscription website.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, so what you're describing is like not a scam artist, I guess, but someone who's not exactly,
playing like on the up and up.
Yeah, he's not exactly.
If that's what
fair.
He's doing.
Yeah.
So if that's what he's doing.
Yeah. I don't think he's that cold and calculated that he's like, I'm gonna try to get banned here so I can drive people to my website. I think he just says some dumb shit. I don't know if he's like, oh man, I don't know. I mean, he might be racist. I don't really know for sure, but he says some like.
My bar for racism is a lot higher than most people on the internet. So. Yeah. I might not be the best judge.
I'm just going off of that one super weird, like if I'm being mega, like I want to say it's racist, like that, like the weird like rant he went on about black farmers. Like in my opinion, that's super racist. If you're being really generous, it's like borderline racist. But I think that was.
Does that have to do with the fact that the Biden administration was trying to make like in the COVID relief?
Yeah.
And it was going to be based off of like if you're minority, certain like ethnic characteristics, and white farmers went and sued, and eventually the Biden administration had to back off of that.
I don't know about the suing thing. All I know is that in the infrastructure plan, there are stipulations for minority groups. And one of those minority groups are black farmers. So white farmers will also get like some money for the infrastructure plans, but black farmers might get a little bit more depending on their situation. And it's not in the bill. Like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that's what they went to court for, and maybe they changed like the wording of it. But my intuition tells me that the bill said basically, if you meet these brackets, you will get this much money, and those brackets mostly contained black farmers. So they go out and advertise, basically saying like, hey, here are like, or they don't even have to advertise. The headlines will say Biden's infrastructure bill predominantly gives wealth back to black farmers, I think is like some of the headlines that are said. So then Crowder takes that and goes, oh my God, we're giving money to, we're disproportionately giving money to black farmers. What about white farmers? And then he makes his weird tirade, is I think how the rhetoric kind of went around.
The thing I like to handle like issues like that more on a just kind of like a meme, but like more like on a class basis, like based off income rather than a race basis.
Yeah, but that's how they go. But what I'm saying is that that's how the bill is worded, is based on class. But what happens is that classes of peoples are predominantly taken up by races of people. So poor people, black people are more likely to be poor than white people. That's a separation of class, and races fall into those separations of class. So all the bill was doing, I think, maybe they went to court and changed like the wording of it, but the point of the bill is that we will give money to people under this wealth line. So if your farm makes only made this much money over coronavirus, you will get this money from the infrastructure bill or whatever.
I understand the intent.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think the people that made the bill are these racist, black nationalists or these anti-white people that hate Caucasians. Mm-hmm. I think that they are trying to help minorities because they were disproportionately affected by coronavirus. And I believe it's due to the fact that unskilled labor got disproportionately negatively impacted by coronavirus due to the fact that in terms of skilled labor, like you have like a tech job or a college degree, those are much easier to handle online than like per se like working at a fast food restaurant where the business is physically closed.
Yeah, or a factory or whatever. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and you're more likely to have that job based off income, education, two-parent households, the area you live, and that's going to affect minorities at a higher rate than Caucasians. Yep. So I understand like the bill's probably, minorities got disproportionately impacted by coronavirus. So let's help them out more or in a way that correlates similarly because they're disproportionately impacted. I understand the intent, but I think you leave like certain bad optics or certain be like a bad precedent if you start saying that it's a possibility that someone that is black that earns more money than a white farmer is going to be getting COVID relief or more COVID relief.
Yeah, but I don't think that was what happening. What was happening is that the bill states that people under this bracket, like we were talking about, gets the COVID relief. That's predominantly black people. So then the headlines for that same bill say Biden gives relief to black farmers. Crowder reads that headline and says, oh my God, black farmers are getting money and white farmers aren't getting money. Where's the equality there? And then he makes his little skit, whatever, and gets banned. But I think that's like how what happened is that Bill says this thing, headlines say another thing, almost, right? And then Crowder like takes that headline and uses it to his advantage. Would you like agree that that's potentially how it broke down?
Yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility for everything. I have to see the video in question, and if that's what Crowder did, like I said before, he deserves adequate criticism for that. And if that is what he did, then that kind of plays partly into like our society increasingly doing a thing that I called headlining, where a person will see a headline and they'll just take like the overall headline and just run with it. Like I was on Twitter last night when in terms of like vaccinations, and somebody linked. I'm not gonna name their account, but it's someone I follow with I believe like 26,000 followers on Twitter, saying that, oh well, the coronavirus vaccines like Moderna and Pfizer can lead to like heart inflammation, right? And the person kind of broadcasted that article as saying like, see everybody, I told you I was right. Coronavirus can lead to heart problems, right? Like the vaccine can lead to heart problems. And so I'm like, wow, it's kind of crazy. It's an article from The Guardian. So I went and I just read through the article, right? And directly in the article, towards the end of it, it says the CDC has not confirmed a causal link between the cases of heart inflammation in correlation to people who have taken the vaccine. It says the CDC is currently investigating the cases, but they haven't confirmed the causal link between the two.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like the headline with that person just runs with it without reading through the entire article that says right there that the CDC hasn't confirmed the causal link yet. What that article, the title is about was an advisory group
yep,
coming
yeah,
out with their findings, not the CDC.
yeah, and I 100% agree. Like fucking lefties do this, and so do fucking right wing people as
And
well.
dude, the
Where they just
entire comment section
they
is
just
like,
snipe.
"Well, oh my God, I took the vaccine yesterday,
Yeah,
guys. I might be gone. Like, this is why I'm not taking the vaccine." And the thing is, the person likes to play both sides of the fence, where they're like saying that, "Oh, well, I'm not saying to not get the coronavirus vaccine," but you see all these comments and them liking comments that are on comparison to being an anti-vaxxer. And
yep,
a person's kind of like saying that, well, I have a doctor that tells me I shouldn't get it due to a condition that I have. And I'm like, yeah, no one's going to argue with that. Certain people shouldn't get vaccines, right? It's on a person to person basis. Even the flu shot isn't recommended for some people due to certain conditions or circumstances that they have. But at the same time, vaccines are usually good for the large majority of the population. So if you're using your own like selective circumstance to cast doubt on vaccines using your platform, that's a really stupid thing to do.
yeah, for
At least
sure.
in my
Yeah,
opinion.
no, I 100% agree. Yeah, people snipe the shit out of fucking headlines, and people make some weird fucking like takes that get exploded into like um exactly what they uh I don't know how else to word basically what you said, but yeah, like someone will say something like, "Oh, guys, I'm not going to get the vaccine because of this," and then someone's like, "Oh, well, therefore I'm not going to get the vaccine because of this," and it's like, well, neither of those things have anything to do with like the vaccine. Like what? Like what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that person having a select condition has no idea to do if you, a normal person who's perfectly healthy,
yeah.
that can get it.
Or like they remember when like 3 people got Bell's palsy from AstraZeneca and they fucking banned it in the UK. It was 3 people out of a
Oh
hundred
my
thousand.
lord,
It
dude.
was like
That
point
was
oh 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 three
crazy.
percent, and it's like Jesus.
Or like when 6 or 7 people were getting like blood clots from like the J&J shot. I was so critical of the Biden administration for stopping the vaccine of that.
Yeah,
And then like when they put J&J back on the market, it's like nobody wants it.
yeah.
Like you can see
But
like the graphs.
but what's interesting is that like it's good for you to put to throw some criticism at the Biden administration for banning it, but at the same time, government is at behest of public opinion. So when public opinion demands that this
It was
thing is
like
bad,
6 people
oh,
out
I
of
know,
almost
but
7 million
yeah,
shots.
but people are
Oh
fucking
my
super
lord.
dumb, dude. Like I think that's the same thing that happened in the UK. 3 people got Bell's palsy. Everyone threw up their arms and were freaking out. So the government's like, okay, I guess we have to ban this, or else we risk, like you could literally lose an election over that. Imagine if the Biden administration doesn't ban that, and then it turns out that it does. Like people still keep the idea that it's bad. Then all of a sudden, there's an image in their mind that, oh my God, Biden's trying to literally kill us, right? And then they go and vote him out of office. So sadly, when people get caught up in a stupid wave of bullshit, the government's kind of like, okay, well, fuck, I guess we have to ban this because, you know, it's the same thing with
Well, yeah.
guns, right? On the other side, right? I'm pretty sure in fucking Canada, some guy in Nova Scotia shoots up 15 people, and they instantaneously ban like AR-15s and a billion other things, and then they accidentally banned like a website as well. Like it was like really strange, but public opinion drives politics. So sometimes people make mistakes, and
Yeah,
and
you're
and
right. Like, there's a common saying that, politics is downstream from culture,
yep,
right? So obviously that plays a part. I just wish that, and obviously like a lot of the response to lockdowns, like the protests, a lot of that had to correlate with the fact it was an election year.
Yep.
I really really wish that it wasn't an election year where all this was going down. I felt that had a big part to play. I
Well,
understand what you're saying, but
sadly you can't pick your luck. So, like, I
yeah, I
mostly
know
agree,
it's
but
unfortunate.
you got to deal with the cards at your hands.
Yeah, I think maybe you could say like there's a lot of like optics that went into what was going on rather than like what was best overall.
Well,
But
but a lot of the optics, sadly, a lot of the optics came from like Trump's side of things, where he just kept his rhetoric just blaring
well,
the entire
I
time.
argue that's on both sides. But in terms of like
Maybe,
Biden,
but
Biden had already been elected, and that's why I went kind of a little hard. And I get like a I have a Twitch question
yeah, sure,
from
go answer.
Kevin09304. Wait a second. And then they say, what's your opinion on Steven Crowder again? I guess that's for me.
Yeah.
So Kevin, my opinion on Steven Crowder is that I don't hate Crowder. I don't I think Crowder can be funny. I think he can be offensive. My opinion, I believe in terms of the situation that it would be really, really fun for Crowder to debate Sam Cedar. I think it'd be really entertaining to see. At the same time, I don't think he's obligated to debate him. I think you can criticize.
Am I back?
I think so. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, there we go. Jesus, I heard the noise. I was gonna go upstairs and try to get like data so I can message, but okay, sorry about that. My internet just. Thankfully, you're answering a chat question. It just decided to go out on me, but I think we're okay. It's just a little rainy outside, so maybe that was it.
I just clicked your link. You've got a decent PC.
Thanks. I spend way too much money on it.
You have so many followers. I have zero. You're so much bigger than me. The imbalance of power.
I'm so sorry. Am I? Do I have too many Infinity Stones or something? But no, it's okay. That doesn't really. My followers don't translate well into viewers, sadly. But that's okay. Well,
We were just talking about optics in 2020. So I want to know your thoughts on the rioting and looting and how that was handled and how justified that was.
Well, the rioting and looting was definitely not justified. As to how like widespread was it, or how much of an effect it had on stuff, it seemed to have a actual pretty like substantial, well, not really a substantial, at least a small effect on the election. Like Biden's numbers did actually start dropping a little bit closer to the election, as the riots were going on. But yeah, for sure, like 100%, the riots totally not necessary. burning down people. Now, if you want to burn down public buildings, like, the police department or, federal buildings, stuff like that, that's a different story, because that's like the whole point, is that, you can protest against your government. That's literally why you guys have, or why the First Amendment exists in the first place, is because of, that exact reason, so you can fight against tyranny. So part of that is also that you should be able to riot against public properties, but in terms of private property, shouldn't be burning that shit down. But protests, the normal protests, people just being outside peacefully protesting, that is totally 100% okay. And I think that had a very positive effect, as long, and, because that turned into voters, and voters, well, how the election went. So,
Are you a Destiny fan?
yeah, I guess so.
I got a feeling. You know how I knew you're a Destiny fan? Because you made the thing about rioting bad, looting bad,
Yeah.
Against public property fine. Once you said
Well, I'm
that
also
line,
a
I'm like,
liberal,
wait
so
a minute.
I'm also
like,
liberal,
wait a
so I
minute.
respect private property. But yeah, I guess that's technically almost verbatim his talking point.
Like, nobody was making that argument when it happened. Because let me tell you something. Like, my first encounter, I'm gonna eventually get to my response, but like my first encounter of like Destiny was, I didn't even know who he was. Was like at first time I actually heard about him was during that JonTron thing that happened way, way long ago.
Yeah.
All I heard was that JonTron got like exposed for being a Nazi or something like that. I didn't know it was Destiny. And then like I think like a year or two ago, like this whole stuff between like Twitch streamers and YouTubers are going on, and Destiny had a big opinion about it. And that's how I started hearing about Destiny. I kind of figured, he's one of these liberal dudes, SJW types. I saw some of his takes and it seemed kind of like it was in that direction. But then like the Kyle Rittenhouse thing happened, and I went around and did as much research as I could into that. Right. So I went spent like the entire day going through so many clips, going like through the New York Times like lineup of events. Like I had a crazy amount of like looking into it. And then I kind of went to Destiny's stream about it. And I'm like, okay, let's hear Destiny's opinion. Let me just write off Destiny, because I'm a person that at the time I was looking for somebody that was left wing to watch, because I had been a person that I felt like I had watched enough right wing content and had gotten my fill of like what the right believed in and why they believed in what they believed. And so I was in my search for a person on the left to watch and get like their side of things. And so I kind of went in there kind of anticipating that, hey, I'm pretty much just, going to write off Destiny. He's going to have like this really dumb take on it. And his take was pretty much my take, right? And that was shocking, right? And I watched his stream. I watched like all the streams he did talking about it, in terms of like he went on like another like podcast panel. He talked to Vosh about it. And like I was pleasantly surprised, and I started watching more of Destiny. And it turns out that me and him have a lot of the same opinions on things. And it's not like this thing where it's, oh, well, I watched Destiny, then I formed that same opinion as him based off this particular topic. It's kind of like I naturally have this opinion based off what I personally think or believe. And it turns out that Destiny also has that same opinion. That was really, really funny to me. And so I watched Destiny a lot since then. Right? Yeah. Kind of, it's really, really similarly like the time I discovered Ben Shapiro, as kind of like the same thing. Where it was like, okay, well, he has a lot of the same ideas that I have, right? And then I'm gonna start watching him a lot, right? I kind of got my fill of him, and I see a lot of like similarities between the two of them. Though I think Destiny really hates being compared to him, but
well, I mean, maybe in terms of like they both kind of speak fast, but yeah, they're really not that similar in terms of like rhetoric or opinion at all. Obviously,
there are some takes like economically. I've seen them agree on a decent amount of things.
Well, they would agree. Now, I don't really know 100%. Maybe Ben Shapiro's economic statements have changed, but at least based off of my economic stances, like I would, I want heavy regulation. So like I'm liberal, so I wanna keep capitalism, obviously, but you need to regulate and change any market failures. So it seems like healthcare is probably a market failure, and whatever else we discovered that's a market failure, you need to change it so that it's not, so that it improves the lives of people, whatever.
Do you watch any of the other? I think before I ask, I should probably give my response to the 2020 rioting and looting. Like same in agreement as you. Like rioting and looting is bad. I don't think it's good. I do push back on Destiny in terms of like burning or destroying public property, due to the fact that um you're kind of destroying your own community, and that comes out of your own tax dollars. And while like a post office, which is a federal building, is being like repaired, those workers are inconvenienced by having to travel farther for work. Like how many city halls are there? So I'm just against destroying property in general. Though I understand, the standpoint that destroying a police cars is symbolic for protesting against the police. I think maybe I don't know, spray painted instead of setting it on fire.
Well, that's still vandalism. That's still part of rioting. But
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
I prefer
But
vandalism to straight out like destroying.
yeah, but it's funny that you bring in taxes because like yeah, if you're paying for it, you should have every right to destroy it as well. So the same way, if I buy if I buy a mug out of the store and I will come home and I destroy the mug, I have every right to. So in the same kind of vein, if I'm paying taxes on it, it's for the people to decide what they do with it. So when a city is rioting and the city decides to destroy, the local police station, those people have chosen to spend their tax dollars to repair that police station.
I think we got to be very careful of how we're structuring that argument, because in the same way that like how are we deciding who, even though everybody's paying for it, whose voice matters more, and whether it's a certain percentage of voices like what we're meeting, because most of the city isn't rioting. Most of the city is probably indoors.
Well, yeah,
This is a selective amount. So if there's a vote like, hey, let's burn down this cop car, that'd be something different in my opinion. And in the same way that maybe you can make like this claim of ownership based off a percentage of people that are upset about something that's going on in their community, um, I doubt a lot of these same people would have the same opinion those numerous times where white militiamen have gone inside federal buildings.
yeah, no, I 100% agree. So all I'm saying is that when I mean like if the people decide to do that, I would mean like a majority of them. So of course, if the very small like the riots that were happening, I don't agree with them because the people around those cities also didn't agree with them. They were trying to get them stopped, and the cops got sicked on them. But those now sadly the debate was also around the ACAB and stuff like that. So sometimes the messaging gets a little like muddy because like on one side you're protesting to abolish the police, and then you're also writing about it. So then it's weird to bring the cops in to stop the riots because it's hard to get the protesters to agree to it. Anyways, basically the riots weren't agreed upon. No, like nobody really liked the riots. People liked the protest, and then people didn't like the riots. So it's up to the communities to scuttle the riots. So what I mean by if people decide to riot and burn public places, they have every right to do so. That also plays into people if the city. So let's break this down to very basic numbers. If a city of 100 people, if 10 of them decide to riot and start burning down the public buildings in that city of 100 people, it's the job of the other 90 people to then stop the 10 people.
Yeah, I would agree
because there's not some form like there's no voting on what to burn down. You have to just kind of deal with it as a community. So I think they did a relatively good job of that. It's hard to stop rioters and stuff like that, but for the most part, a lot of the Black Lives protests were saying like, hey, don't stay after here, don't join the riots, don't do any rioting, don't burn down buildings, don't burn down private stuff like that. There was a lot of that rhetoric going around. Of course, it didn't 100% work, but they did their best, and to whoever it didn't work, I mean, the cops got involved. So
the thing is, right, I'm under the impression, and I'm a conspiracy theorist, that a lot of the rioting and looting was allowed to happen due to the fact that a lot of these cities are run by Democrats, and that they didn't want the bad optics because they're going to support Black Lives Matter and like protesting, and African Americans correlate much more to the Democratic Party than the Republican Party. So I kind of feel like a lot of the lack of response in a lot of these areas was due to the bad potential optics of all these cameras being around, of police literally, because if you're stopping rioting, you're stopping everybody in that area. Police just can't like aren't going to be able to like selectively pick out every individual doing something wrong. They're going to clear out like an entire block.
Yeah, well,
And
they're
during
not
that
arresting the entire
process,
block. They're just doing the crowd dispersion tactics, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But that's going to look optically bad, and it did look optically bad because the times that it did happen, or police were clearing blocks and areas, there was a lot of pushback from people that are part of BLM and Black communities saying that, hey, we're protesting against police brutality, and you're having the police prevent us from like protesting, right, due to like these couple of guys rioting. So
Well,
I felt like they didn't want to get it. They didn't want to use as much force as they could have due to bad optics.
the riots mostly happened at night, so no protesters, no peaceful protesters were around after that. And then also, I think
Some people can argue against that, saying that we can protest anytime we want to.
yeah, I know, but it's at the behest of the protesters to then separate themselves from the rioters. And if they're not, then they are as culpable as the rioters are. So that's what was mostly happening. A lot of the protesters were saying, "Hey, don't riot. Hey, we're not going to show up at night. We don't want to be We don't want to be associated with these rioters whatsoever." So then the cities, deal with them in their way. And then I was also going to say, like, if you don't think that the riots were dealt with that well, I think maybe there's a little bit of like almost survivorship bias going on because where will protests and the riots be taking place? It's not going to be happening in the middle of fucking Alabama, right? It'll be happening in Democrat-run cities. You're not going to have a Republican-run city with a massive, liberal movement going on, right? That city would get voted. A liberal candidate would get voted into office if that were to happen. So, of course, the riots and protests will be happening in Democrat-run cities because that's where most people who would be protesting, rioting, live in the first place. So that happens. And then in terms of, like, you're saying the optics and stuff like that, I would say that's mostly a little bit conspiratorial. I think it's just hard to stop riots. And
The thing is, I'm looking at like two examples, right? Are that I look at are like the mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler, and then that Seattle mayor.
Yep.
Where like with Portland, you had like what was it, like 100 days plus of unrest, and the thing is, Trump offered and repeatedly to these cities federal troops. I believe they did do federal troops at first of Portland, but there was a lot of pushback politically, so they got rid of them.
because
And in terms of
that optically
Seattle,
looks really bad. Like that, like
yeah, federal troops coming in.
because federal troops to come in to like a state or a city, like that's like a huge separation of how like the United States is supposed to work, right? Like that's not how your city is supposed to be run. Your city is supposed to be separated from the state. The state, so the state runs the state. The mayors run the cities, and the federal government runs the federal government. So like the federal government sending in federal agents into like a city is a very much like a huge, huge like closing of the power gap. So that just looks optically bad from like the get go. So
I understand it looks optically bad if like you're a Democrat. If it's a Republican, it's like whatever. If you're a Democrat, then yeah, it's gonna look optically bad on you. I'd say honestly, if you're Republican as well, but it would hurt. It hurts your coalition more as a Democrat because those people are directly voting for you,
well,
or at
also
least have a higher chance of voting for
yeah,
you.
and you're also accepting help from quote unquote. I don't know
Yeah,
how much help
the
they would
enemy.
get.
Yeah, in an election year, who can use it as a win, saying, "See,
See,
I'm
look,
right.
yeah,
The Democrats had to come to me for help."
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When
When they probably
it
didn't even
became
need the help
like
because it will come. I think what kind of your argument maybe comes down to was how much damage did the riots do, and I'm of the opinion that they didn't really do that much damage. The protests were much more effective than the riots were, and for the most part, nobody really gave a shit about the riots. And like besides calling in martial law basically to get to stop these fucks, I don't know if there's much else you can do. You just need to get the community to stop these people from rioting because it's just really fucking hard to stop a riot. And you can see in the polling that it hurt Biden a little bit. His numbers started to drop a little bit as riots started like fucking blowing up. So I think it just really just comes down to the community really putting a chokehold on the riots. Be like, hey, don't fucking do this, okay? And you can see even a lot of videos. It seems like a lot of the instigators and stuff yet were like out of towner fucking white people who have no business being there, just throwing rocks at fucking windows and shit. So
yeah, they're idiots that were just there for an excuse to destroy stuff.
yeah,
But it seemed to me like the excuse for letting as much damage happen as it was that we don't want to, because I've seen it plenty of times, right, where riots are happening, is that we don't want officers out there because we don't want to put our officers' lives in danger. Like if there's a police protest, like I think I saw this after the Rodney King happening, in 1992, I believe, or four. like with the Rodney King happening, that the excuse for why the police didn't weren't as hands on as they should have been was that they didn't want to endanger the lives of their own officers due to the fact that there's so much people out there, you don't know what they're going to do,
Yeah.
and your officers are outnumbered heavily, and the reason they're rioting has a large part to do with the police. So you're kind of like putting a target on their back, and you don't want to have like their blood on your hands.
Yeah,
So
but
it
that's
seemed
standard.
like to me that cops were more like contain riding to a certain area,
Yep.
and stop something if you see something like really egregious happening, but that they didn't have enough people to adequately deal with it. And that's what led to Trump like saying, if you have enough people, federal troops or whatever like
Yeah.
that.
But that's standard. That's standard riot practice is to just, try to corner the riot into like a certain area, mitigate the damage and let it disperse naturally. That's been standard practice for riots all over the place. That even happened at the Trump White House, or not what building they walk into again? The Capitol building?
Oh, the 1-6, yeah.
Yeah, so like right, so even that happened where police just kind of were like, okay, there's a fucking wave of people coming. Let's just, like fuck, they're already here. Like we can't really stop them from coming in. There's not enough people here. So
Do you believe that that was an inside job?
no, I think that what happened
Okay.
was, I think that what happened is that a bunch of people started rushing the doors. So the cops were like, hey, like fuck, we gotta protect our own, so we're just going to kind of get out of the way if we can. We'll stand at the door, we'll block them in, but if they charge hard enough, we'll let them through. And we're going to put all of the government officials in this back room right here, and we'll have some federal agents protecting them, and if anyone comes by this door, we will shoot them. And that's what happened. A lady jumped through that door and got fucking shot right in
Yeah,
the fucking head.
I,
So,
I saw that. That was crazy. At first, I didn't know it was a guy in front because the first video I saw was just her just falling back,
yeah.
and I saw a guy behind her with a gun, and I'm like, oh my god, I shot her in the back. That's crazy.
No, it was a guy on
But
the other
then I
side of the
saw
door, yeah.
the initial the videos that came after, and this is why you can't make assumptions because I didn't confirm like, oh, they shot her in the back. I said it seems like it's possible like if this guy shot her in the back, but I can't see who shot her. Right, and it turns out later she wasn't shot in the back; she was shot in the front by a guy that was in front of her. You just couldn't see in the initial video, and this is why like making jump conclusions on actions is such a really really bad practice to do, because then like so many people came with the under the assumption that she got shot in the back, where a guy could have like pulled her down, like arrested her or something like that, and they never got corrected the right information that she was shot in the front after like I believe trying to get in or like break one of the windows to try to get to that area that was
Yeah,
secured.
basically the federal officers there, or state, whatever, whoever's there, I think they were federal because it was the Capitol building. They had set up, this area. This is the protection zone. Okay, we have all of our government officials behind us. You can see them in the back over there. And if anyone tries to cross this threshold, this is the die zone. Okay, we're shooting anyone who crosses here. And that's exactly what happened. That's standard, kind of riot, procedure. And so why I bring this up and why it's important to look at is even so the conspiracy that you're kind of bringing up, and I don't think you believe it, but the kind of the stuff you're bringing up is that basically, officers on purpose let these riots, transpire. And it's not that they really did it on purpose. It's just that that's the typical, that's just how you deal with a riot. And this kind of shows that because, when it was a bunch of white people who voted for Trump that were doing the same thing that, the other riots were, it transpired the same exact way. Mitigate the damage, let them do whatever they're doing, kind of trying to pigeon them into an area, mitigate the damage and set up if there are people who might be in danger, you set up like, your protection zone, and if anyone crosses that threshold, then it's, fuck them, So that's basically what happened with those riots, and that's what happened with every other riot. So it just kind of, it's like it just seems like a standard procedure.
Yeah, I don't believe in conspiracy. I believe
Yeah.
entirely what you believe, that it's just something unfortunately occurred. Do you watch other political people besides Destiny?
Yeah, so I watch some Sam Cedar, I watch some David Pakman. I tune in when I can to Steven Crowder and stuff like that. Like if I really, because sometimes I just cringe too hard and I just can't take it. Might watch some Ben Shapiro if I get the chance, but again, if I cringe too hard, I can't take it. Same thing. Like I might watch some lefty people like the Surf Vosh or something like that, but then if my cringe meter goes off too hard, I gotta get out of there. Yeah, so
you're not like a. So who's your favorite one? Like who's like your favorite?
I mean, I I mean, I don't really want to say a favorite as in like I'm on like a team or anything like that, but in terms of who I respect the most, it'll be Sam Cedar, David Packman, and Destiny. I would say would be like three guys I put the most respect behind. It was Vosh a little bit for a while as like a lefty I respect, and then he just kind of went balls to the wall. It just kind of went wild. So I was like, okay,
Okay, because
whatever.
I love to hear from people that like Vosh over people like Destiny. For me, I'm a person that I'd say that the people that I've watched, I put the most weight behind because I haven't watched Pac-Man or um, Sam Cedar. I got a little thing with Pac-Man because he said something about Colin Kaepernick being part of cancel culture and saying that right-wing people love cancel culture. Look at Colin Kaepernick, and I think that's kind of disingenuous because I wouldn't include Kaepernick as being a victim of cancel culture. He shot himself in the foot way too many times for that. But as far as people like I can respect like their opinion and how they come to conclusions the most. For me, it's like Ben Shapiro and Destiny are like the two top. Um, in terms of Vosh, my big problem with Vosh is that it seems to me like Vosh kind of he kind of like coincides morality with certain political positions that a person holds, and that for him, it's sometimes okay or tolerable if somebody gives misinformation or is disingenuous or bad faith, if their end goal is morally correct in his opinion, whereas for somebody else, like per se, if a conservative or Republican were to do the exact same tactic for this similar issue, he would rail them like crazy. Whereas Destiny and people like Ben Shapiro are much more consistent in their beliefs that if somebody's doing something that I disagree with, then I'm going to criticize for them for that, and if they're doing something that I like, I'm going to praise them for it. And I saw a lot of Ben Shapiro in which he says that he didn't vote for Trump in 2016. He changed his mind in 2020 because he believed that Trump guided good enough, like a Republican in terms of policy, for him to earn his vote. He didn't believe that Trump would have been the best Republican or would guide too much like a Democrat, so he didn't vote in 2016. And I've seen him actually criticize Trump on multiple occasions in terms of Trump's rhetoric and also some of Trump's policies in terms of tariffs. Like, regardless of what you believe in, tariffs just don't work economically. And that's like one of those economic policies that like Ben Shapiro and Destiny agree with, that, protectionism policies like tariffs aren't very good because they, all they do is just raise the price of goods in other areas, which a lot of these people that are benefiting from these tariffs in this one selective industry trying to protect from dying, buy or consume, right? And Destiny, I've seen him hold the left, especially recently. Before I kind of saw him like more as like a, one of those people that, if my side does it, it's fine, but if somebody else does it, then it's a big problem. But especially like in these last couple of like debates that I've watched over the last year or so, I would say that he treats the right a little bit more harshly. And at the beginning, he was kind of more charitable to people on the left. But I think at this point, he, depending on how involved he is with you, he'll treat you almost the same, right? Maybe not all the way, but pretty much almost the same. Whereas if you're a person on the left and you're advocating for certain ideals, he's gonna hold your feet to the fire because he's like believe that the internet's moving way too much to the left, and some of the rhetoric is getting really really bad or unreasonable.
Uh, yeah. So I mostly agree. I'll go through like each of the three people. So with Vosh, I think I'm not sure that a lot of his stuff comes down to like if somebody's incorrect, as long as they're on my side, I will. I mean, to some extent, he might do that a little bit. Where I think mostly what Vosh comes down to is rhetoric. He uses a lot of like loaded terms and tries to kind of use a lot more kind of targeted terms for very basic stuff that you can talk about in many different ways. He'll use a lot of rhetoric. He'll try to win you on the rhetoric battle, and then
What way are you referring to? Because like when I'm talking like the Vosh optic thing, I'm talking about that talking out of Destiny about like optics and misleading information.
yeah. So optics plays into rhetoric. So So what I mean is that like, um, if Vosh and Destiny were to have a debate on fucking capitalism, some basic loser debate about capitalism, Vosh will describe capitalism as like an evil thing, right? Morally. And Destiny's doesn't describe socialism as an evil thing and doesn't describe capitalism as an evil thing. They're morally neutral things. They're incapable of having a moral
Oh
framework to
yeah,
them.
I understand what you're saying. The
So what I mean is that
morality of an
rhetorically that
economic
looks like,
system.
yeah. So what happens is that Vosh's rhetoric makes it so that you pick a side. Like, oh, capitalism bad because Vosh says it's evil, so I have to. So anything that involves capitalism, is evil because capitalism is evil, right? But capitalism is capitalism. There's downfalls and like there are shit things about capitalism. There are good things about capitalism. You have to regulate the bad things and allow the good things to kind of do their thing. There's no fucking morality attached to systems, right? Socialism isn't evil. Capitalism isn't evil. They are just systems of how the world
Systems to get desired outcomes.
yeah. There's just a means to a thing. So Vosh uses a lot of those tactics where he loads a lot of words with evil and bad, like whatever, like very rhetorically, pointed words so that he can get an edge on people and make it seem like they're bad people. So if we're talking about I guess the capitalism thing is like the better argument, where business owners of businesses are evil people and all they want to do is like kill you and destroy workers, and landlords are evil and stuff. It's like, okay, like you don't need to go that deep. Like it's possible they are, right? It's possible that landlords want to actually like are literally just basically slave owners of it. But there's no, like, why argue that? Like if you just look at it, most landowners have like a basic income. They're not like rich fucks, like like not all landowners have like 27 million houses and literally do nothing for work. A lot of landowners are like construction workers that just own a property, so they do the repairs on their own property, and they also do repairs at like some of the random people and stuff like that. So like,
I think it's because there's a misconception that I think like everybody thinks like that you owning a property means that you're like this big wig Gordon Gecko or like you're like Blackstone or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
and that comes down to rhetoric on how you present how you present landowners. And Vosh presents landowners as some big fat fucks who do nothing except for take advantage of people. So that's like Vosh's thing. As for,
before you move on to Vosh, could you explain to me your thoughts on the Vosh CP clips? Because I've under impression that he's usually I've seen a couple of them. There's like a lot of them. I believe the most popular one is him talking about child labor. But I've also seen this one where he's like, if you just get a CP, if it's given to you and you're not buying it, maybe it's okay. But I don't want to subscribe that Bosch supports CP because I don't have the full context of the clips. But you watch him more than I do, so do you have an opinion on that?
I have never heard of any of those stuff. The only thing that I could maybe is remotely close to what you're talking about is that there's a debate that goes on that like so Destiny has the same debate about ethical child porn, ethical CP, where you
That thing.
yeah, where like
Yeah.
is it possible that you can deal with predators who are in jail by giving them already, anyways, like there's that argument, which maybe is what you're talking about. But then there's the saga where Bosch got accused of like kind of flirting with minors on Discord, and I think that was mostly came out to be not true. So I have no idea about like the CP stuff they might.
From my understanding was that there's been like a couple of semi-viral clips of Vosh talking about CP. I think if you look into it, you'll see there's like 3 or 4 clips that people kind of look at sideways. But I kind of like to be charitable when it comes to like calling somebody like a racist or a pedo or something like that. Try to be very charitable, especially when they're doing like economic comparisons and debates, because it might not be exactly what they believe in. They may be trying to draw a comparison or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, if there's an entertainment factor as well of sarcasm. So it seemed like the Vosh to me was talking about like if you're against child labor, you can't be for the use of child labor and be against the creation or use of child CP due to the fact that they're both exploitations of children. I think that's what he was trying to say, but I think he might have gotten clipped in a way that it misrepresented him like he was supporting CP. But I've also seen a couple other clips of him supporting CP. So it seems like to me like maybe he's talking about these things like for them to get viral, and then he kind of like brings you in, like give like a kind of outlandish take. Like, you know, you can't be against child labor and CP. If you do, like, you're pretty like there's an argument for you to not support CP, and then people are like, wow, that's crazy. And they go and see his actual explanation where he like gives a more in-depth answer that will kind of bring it into reason for you to kind of agree to him, or at least see where he's coming from. And I kind of see Destiny do that a couple of times, where he
Yeah,
gives like a loaded
well,
like
yeah. So
a
Destiny's
thing.
admitted to doing that at least on Twitter, where he like fucking. It's just very flamboyant and very out there, blurbs because you have 120 fucking characters, whatever. So like you don't have that much to say, so like whatever. Just get so yeah. There's maybe a little bit of that, but I'll step away from the CP stuff with Wash because I don't really know. I'll look into the videos if there are any of them. I have literally no idea. I feel like if it was a big deal, I would hear about it a lot more. So I'm leaning towards that it's not like as wild as you're kind of describing it to be. But I have
Well, self-admittedly, a lot of people in there do not like Fosh,
yeah
and there's been like an underground campaign, a conspiracy whether he actually likes CP, but
yeah
it's not like from anyone major because most of the big channels have kind of stayed away from that. So most of the people that don't like Vosh.
yeah. So it's possible that's just a hate campaign. I have no idea. So but yeah. I'll move on to like my what you said about Ben
The
Shapiro
next
then.
two were like Ben Shapiro and Destiny.
Yeah. So with Ben Shapiro, I find it a little like not okay. Well, not that you're being dishonest, but a little bit dishonest to say that like Destiny and Ben Shapiro agree on a lot of things, or are similar people. Just because, yes, Destiny and Ben Shapiro might agree that like tariffs are bad, or they might agree that like the healthcare system is bad right now. The problem is that their outcut, like what they should do about it, their ought statements about both of those things are so wildly different that it's not even like they're not even close to each other. So except for tariffs, I think mostly people just agree that fuck tariffs. Like that's an easy slam dunk. But in terms of like maybe something about healthcare, or maybe something about reparations, or stuff like that, their initial statements on stuff. I'm going to stick with the healthcare one because their initial statements might be the same, right? Ben Shapiro says healthcare in this country isn't working. We need to find a different way to do it. Another one might be schooling as well, but I'll stick with healthcare for now. So healthcare in this nation sucks. Fuck, we got to fix it. What do we do? Destiny will say the same thing. Fuck, healthcare sucks. What are we going to do? Ben Shapiro's take on it is to let laissez-faire the market as much as possible. No fucking public healthcare, no ACA, no nothing. Just fucking leave it up to capitalism. Throw your hands up. Just let the markets take care of everything. That's Ben Shapiro's take. Whereas Destiny's take on it is
I'm
more.
gonna push back a little bit on that characterization of Ben Shapiro's take. I've heard him say repeatedly like there's three avenues in which you can do healthcare. Like it's accessibility, affordability, and quality of care. Like those are the three aspects, and that a country can have two, but not all three of them together.
Yeah,
And
and that
in
his take
his
on that
opinion,
is pretty like that. His view on that is pretty dog shit. But go ahead.
wait,
Yeah,
in terms like I've heard him say like he like based off our current market, we live in a healthcare market that isn't fully um unrestricted or fully restricted. Like it's kind of like a mix between the two of them, so it's not like sustainable.
yeah,
And so like the options that we do have are to make it either less restrictive or build it into more of a system that resembles some, I believe you said like Sweden or Denmark, one of those Nordic countries where it's like multi-tiered. But that was he said that in like I think like a college debate or something like that.
yeah.
So I don't know how long ago that video was. Maybe he changed his opinion or not.
Yeah, maybe he's not fully laissez-faire, but like I've heard him say that a couple times, where he kind of just wants to deregulate the shit out of everything and maybe move to what he means by what he could mean by like a tiered system is that there are um multiple private that's the tiering system, is that there are just private companies basically, and maybe because I don't remember him ever saying that he agrees with any sort of, because if that were true, he would agree with the ACA. So right now, with the ACA in place, it's somewhat of a mixed kind of tiered system. So if Ben Shapiro really actually wanted a tiered system, he would want the ACA to get more funding and more power, and then because then you would be a more of an official tiered system. You would have your basic plan that you can jump into if you want the ACA, and then you have everything else.
Like when I hear multi-tiered system, what I hear is there's a system that is heavily subsidized, or you pay little or nothing depending on your income level, and then after you reach a certain amount of income per year, then it's like you competing in a market with you having a choice to pick from a competing market of private healthcare coverage companies.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the gist of it. Is that you have some level of basic care for the most part, and then once you're outside of that like bracket, like you're saying, and then you can pick. And I think there's a small difference. I think Germany's system is also considered multi-payer, but the difference is that they have multiple like public private companies. Basically, I don't know how you would describe them, but basically there are multiple companies that are heavily regulated, but are different companies in their own right, that all feed into the market, but they're almost all public. So it's basically like a public market almost, based on like a bunch of different systems.
Would you be good of a multi-tiered system, or are you a Medicare for all person or a single payer person?
So, I mean, I don't know if you tuned my stream, but I am from Canada, so I prefer Canada's method over anyone's, which is basically a single
Who
payer
else is
system.
from Canada? Steven Crowder.
Yeah, true, yeah. He is from Canada.
He's not a big fan of your system.
Yeah, I know he's not, which is strange because it just works. It is a single payer system. I've watched at one point had a really weird bad take that Canada's system isn't single payer. He just has the definition wrong. Single payer means that a aspect of your system is paid solely by the government and nobody else. So for Canada, that's healthcare. That's not dental care. That's not vision care. That's like what we describe as healthcare. So that's, you break a bone, you get it replaced. If I fucking snap my spine, I get it replaced. If I have cancer, it's free. If I have, anything that is deemed a medical, thing, I get repaired. Anything that's considered, not that, is not covered. So like dental isn't covered, but we can add it to the system later. And eye care isn't covered, but we can add it to the system later. Things like plastic surgery isn't covered, unless of course maybe it meets some certain parameters and whatnot, that it is like more of a medical thing and stuff like that. But it basically, the government pays for. I get my Ontario health card, and anywhere in Ontario or anywhere in Canada, really, they'll accept it basically anywhere. But I walk into a fucking clinic, and I get any care I need. That's a system that works, and it's how would I call it? It's scalable, I guess, where you can keep it smaller and enlarge it more. You can start off as a very basic form where maybe, it's just broken bones. It's just, the very basic stuff. And then you can expand it to more, more and more stuff as it goes on. And yeah, so I like that system, but there are also other systems that seem to work really well. I mean, whatever Germany's running under seems to work well. Whatever the UK is running under, like they have a more nationalized system that seems to work really, really well. Germany's multi-payer system works really well. I think Australia's is also a multi-payer system, if I remember correctly. Anyways, basically every other nation on the planet has a system that works better than the United States system. So if the United States adopts any of those systems, I'd be happy.
Well, you gotta admit that there are advantages to the system that we currently have.
Which is what, that people who have money can get care and people who don't have money don't get care. Like that's not so. Like, this would be a perfect kind of thing. You brought up Ben Shapiro's like triad of things that you can either have quality. What was it? Quality, quantity, and
it was affordability, accessibility, and quality of care.
So affordability, accessibility, and quality of care. The problem with that is that Okay, so affordability. What is that? Is the United States system affordable? I think everyone would agree that it's not affordable. Okay, is it what was it? Shit, affordability, accessibility,
And
and
quality of care.
quality of care. Okay, so accessibility. Is the United States system accessible? Well, no, because it's not affordable, right? Not a lot of people can
Um,
access it because it's not affordable.
most I don't aren't most people covered, but it's through their job.
Yes,
But
which is kind of a
my
shitty
belief
way
is that
to.
most people are covered.
Yeah, probably because of the job, but that means that if you don't have a job, so I think a lot of things that happen is that you break an ankle, you're out of work, and then your work says, "Oh, we're also firing you," and now you don't have health care. So, well, I don't have health care because of the injury that happened at your workplace, and then you have to go through like some suing and bullshit like that. But
Oh wow. Derek Chauvin just got sentenced to 22 and a half years.
oh wow, well then, rest in peace, that guy. uh, uh, um. So
You're
yeah,
talking
like
about healthcare, and then like you saying that it's not affordable, not accessible. It's wrong that someone that can lose their job and then lose their health insurance because in this country your health insurance is so tied to the job that you have for a
yeah,
lot of people.
yeah. So it's like, so is it affordable? No. Is it accessible? Not really, because it's not really that affordable, right? And then is it is
Well,
it is it quality? Yeah, it's fucking quality. You know, people come from all over the world. But if I go to the States and get something done, it's probably covered by my healthcare plan, right? Like,
I would make an argument for accessibility due to the fact that the large majority of people have it, even if it is from their job. I make an argument for quality in terms of like, I think quality is our best argument for keeping the system in terms of like innovation.
but does
We're
quality?
the
Yeah,
ones.
for sure. I 100% agree. But the problem is that does quality matter if nobody can access it, or if the only people who can access it are people from outside of your country? Because they don't have to deal with their own healthcare. So right, I don't have to deal with any healthcare costs. Oh, one day I need some intrusive surgery and I have to go to the States. Odds are a little bit of it is probably covered by my government anyways. They send me to the States, I get my shit done, and I come back, and it doesn't
Like,
cost me anything, and I used your
I think
system.
it's a good argument. I follow that kind of like more like the Ben route that, at least from that debate that I heard, that we should either have one that's less regulated, where it's easier for insurance companies to compete, or a multi-tiered system.
Yeah,
Right, because my thing, it's like, do you remember? You're Canadian, correct?
yeah.
Oh, so it probably worked the same way in Canada. Like probably like 7 or 8 years ago, there used to be cell phone plans, right? And it used to be so limited, like you can only talk. You got like extra minutes from this hour to this hour. You got unlimited minutes from this time to that time. You had 2 year contracts. And what slowly started happening was that this company was like, okay, let's have unlimited plans, right? And it became popular. Then all these other companies started copying and saying, hey, we offer unlimited plans. And then they're like, okay, 2 year contracts. Well, now we don't need 2 year contracts anymore. You can just buy a phone contract free. And all these other companies started copying the same thing, saying, we're going to offer the same thing. And so, like, the cell phone market has become much better, like, in such a short amount of time in terms of the availability of plans and what's being offered in the market. And in
Yeah.
terms of like health insurance in America, like states can't compete. Like in Florida, like we have residential or in Georgia or in any state, there's like residential like insurance companies. And I feel like maybe if we were to open up that to where insurance companies can compete like all over the country, it'll be a little better because then you'd have more people like within a market being able to compete with each other. I think that'll lower costs. I think there's things we could do right now that would lower cost. Um, so maybe we could try that.
Well,
But
the
if
thing is that
not, then definitely multi-paired system.
yeah. So the thing is that like even if opening up so that you can compete across the entire nation does lower cost, and maybe it will, I fear that it could alienate people. So if the insurance company in Alabama can do, they can compete across the entire nation, you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna fucking do all of their business in fucking California, right? Like, they're just like, what's the point of fucking health insurance of Alabamans who make no money when I can go just steal the money from a bunch of Californians, right?
Artists has to do like what's your goal of healthcare? Because someone's goal, because I'm comparing like to something like food, right? Where like food in America, cell phones, they're so accessible that even though they're not free, they're not provide. Well,
Well,
technically,
food
food
is
is
free.
provided.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that food can be provided like for the. Well, this would be an argument for like multiplayer system then, where it's so like cheap that private markets can pretty much accessible to large majority of the population, and then for those that kind of fall out, there is some government assistance. So I guess this would be in favor of me for a multi-payer system in some way.
Yeah, and so my only issue, basically, is that, like, well, I agree with you if you're in favor of a multiplayer system, but it seems like, in terms of like Ben's rhetoric, a lot of his rhetoric kind of pushes people away from the multiplayer system. So even if he says that once in a while, a lot of his rhetoric comes back around to
Yeah,
fuck
I would say,
regulation. You know,
yeah, I'd say he probably prefers to try that at
yeah,
least. Well, first, he's much more of a fan of that than multiplayer.
yeah, possibly, but it just seems like there's such a large body of work that we already know that his system of trying that more of a market approach just will not work, because no other country, no other modern like Western country has done that or tried that, or if they have tried it, it was back in like the 40s or something after the war, and it was like, oh, nope, this just doesn't work. So we already have, there are so many systems that have already been tried and are, and work. So just
So
just copy one of them.
we have Vosh down, we have Ben Shapiro down. Moving on to the third,
Uh,
Destiny.
yeah. So I think, oh, do you remember what you said mostly about Destiny? Because I think most of my
Um,
disagreement is that,
I made a comparison to the things I said about Destiny is that I like him the same way as Ben, that they're able to hold their own side accountable. For certain things, they're able to believe in the things they believe in. They're more genuine than most other people, where you're kind of like exaggerating something they already believe in, rather than create an entire character. They agreed on him and Ben on certain economic stances. By the way, $15 minimum wage. Destiny actually kind of agrees on Ben, though he didn't kind of like want to
well,
say it. In the video that I watched of him looking at the Ben versus the Democratic congressman on debating it, it seemed like he kind of agreed on Ben about there not being a federal minimum wage and it should be more like on a state level.
yeah, no, Destiny 100% agree with that, and most people who have like a, I wouldn't want to say, I mean, so
It's
optically
a
a
very
$15.
minority opinion because there's not a lot of people that agree with that.
Yeah, because putting it up to this, so saying $15 minimum wage nationally is a lot easier than saying $15 wage per state, and it's rhetorically way more accurate. So basically, Destiny's opinion on it is that, like, I would rather have $15 minimum wage per state, but $15 minimum wage nationally is so much more popular right now and is like a total like rhetorical win, that if Biden passes $15 minimum wage nationally, it's just going to be such a win for him and he'll just be the president. Like, he'll easily win re-election with that. Is
Yeah, I've heard
basically
him
like
say that.
is basically like Destiny's point on it. So in terms of like, I don't know exactly what Ben Shapiro's kind of take on it is, but it just seems, the only problem I have with a lot of um I want to basically believe you, right, but it seems like from most of the body of work, Ben Shapiro will find some way of weaseling out of it. It seems like Ben Shapiro does a lot of stuff of like damage control, where he's like, I will just take the one step lower, but if you join me on that one step lower, I'm going to take another step lower. So for example, the argument is $15 minimum wage nationally. So Ben Shapiro will take the one step lower. Well, why don't we just do it on the states level? Like, just have states deal with it. And then if they were to agree with him on that, then they would just go, well, let's make it like $11. Maybe $15 is too much. And of course, you can see this on the other side with like people like, what's her name? Like Joy Grace or whatever.
Oh, the Marjorie Green Taylor person you're talking about,
No,
the
no, no.
crazy lady.
There's a political commentator streamer chick who used to work with Bernie Sanders. Um,
Oh,
it's like Joy Taylor or something. I
she's
forget her name.
African American
Yeah,
and like Destiny's was like railing against her. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So because basically what she did is that, so during the election, it comes out that Biden it supports $15 minimum wage, and like the day Biden says I support $15 minimum wage, she changed to like it's got to be 25 now. It's like, oh my god, like Jesus Christ, you like, it's just like an easy tell of like, okay, you're not actually here to debate. Like, you don't actually want $15 minimum wage. You just want something that isn't what Biden wants. Um,
Um,
Yeah, I've seen it on Twitter too. Like it should really be 20 or 25, and it's
Yeah,
like
and that discussion only started popping up because Biden all of a sudden supports $15 minimum wage. Now it's gone back to because Biden's been having trouble passing it because he tried to pass it through with the infrastructure bill, and Joe Manchin said no, I don't want $15 minimum wage. So now Biden is still saying that he wants minimum wage, $15 minimum wage, and so now the rhetoric has changed to he's just not he could just put it through with an executive order. Like what the fuck? Like why can't he just
that'll be
do
a
this?
very.
And it's like
I hate how they don't understand precedent. They understand that
they
if
literally don't
Biden
understand
does
how
it.
they don't understand how the government works. Like it's so stupid. Like I can't believe me, a fucking Canadian, has to tell you how your goddamn government works. Like fuck me, dude. Like
That's why I was so against Trump declaring the border wall like a national emergency.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of Republicans were too. Because the thing is, like, what's to stop the next Democrat from saying, well, climate change is a national emergency, so let's divert all this funding towards climate change.
Yeah.
All these regulations towards climate change.
Well, it's not even that. It's just basically, do you want to allow the president to usurp your power as a state? So originally with the border wall, right, you would have to go to Texas, ask them for permission. You would have to go to California, ask them for permission to build, walls through their states. If you just declare it a national emergency, then like it doesn't matter. So then what happens is that you go, oh hey Texas, you are you don't want to I don't know, or California or whatever, like you don't want to do this thing. Well, I'm declaring it a national emergency, or I'm executive ordering it, and it's just going straight over your head. Fuck you, fuck your senators, fuck the Senate.
I'm a person that's been deeply concerned with the expanding power of the executive branch. I'm not a big fan of a president unilaterally deciding through executive order just to overrule and just like rule over like what states do.
Yeah, for sure. And that sadly, that was mostly currently. Now Biden has stopped doing that. You can see that with his infrastructure plan. But that was a large. Trump did a lot of that, where he just signed executive orders when people just pissed him off. Like, oh, you didn't vote with me? Executive order.
It's been expanding for like modern presidents, like for a while. Like even Obama, you may have seen criticism with Obama. A lot of Republicans criticized him for a lot of his executive orders.
Yeah, for sure. But it just seems like right now it's plateauing a little bit. Biden hasn't really been doing many executive orders in the affirmative. He's been doing a lot of retractions. So he's been like, annexing or deleting a lot of Trump's executive orders. But I think that's fine to do. That's like a typical thing to do. And Biden hasn't really done any executive orders of his own. He's mostly been trying to pass stuff through the House. Through both houses, and when it fails, he just tries again at some later date with some other stuff attached to it. So it seems like Biden's mostly doing the typical political route. Sadly, that's a little bit too slow for some lefties, and they go freak the fuck out and say like, just put an executive order in for Medicare for all right now. It's like, okay, well, that's not like okay. Like, I mean, if you want an authoritarian government, you could just move somewhere else.
Yeah, to be honest, I have some deep concerns over like what's been happening right now in terms of the like consolidating power. Like we're in power now, so let's start a commission on packing the court. Let's like put on like 5 more Supreme Court justices. Let's get rid of the filibuster. Right.
Yeah. And a lot of those rhetoric stuff, like again, Biden's mostly stopped. Well, Biden did do the packing the court thing a little bit. I don't think they actually expanded it, right?
They started a commission about like looking into it.
Yeah, so maybe that'll end up leading nowhere. But sadly,
I haven't seen him support the filibusters. I have seen some congressmen, some senators individually, but I haven't seen him come out in favor of it.
Yeah, so I don't really know much about any of that, but I was just gonna say that like,
you know what the filibuster does?
Isn't it so that basically you don't need to have like it doesn't need to be if 40% or 30% disagree, like the thing just gets dropped on its ass? That's basically what's been happening.
Basically, most major legislation, like in the Senate, to pass requires 60 votes.
Yeah, 60 votes.
And what ending the filibuster would do would knock that requirement down to 50.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the Democrats have advantage in Congress where they have a majority.
Yeah.
So if they were to end the filibuster in terms of the Senate, it would lower the requirement for major bills to pass from 60 to 50. Now, right now, Democrats have 50 seats and senators and Republicans have 50 seats as well. But vice president will break ties. That's the way the rules work. So if they were to end the filibuster and lower it to a simple majority, then Kamala Harris could be that 101 vote which would mean the Democrats could pass any legislation that they wanted as long as all of them voted on it.
Yeah, but I think that's fair because, you voted them into office. What I think is unfair about the filibuster is that what's happening is that you've voted in. So right now, basically how the Senate, I think, is supposed to fit itself is that currently 60% of your you would have to get 60% of your population to vote on something for it to actually pass, which seems very unfair. That 40% of your population controls legislation, basically, is how that kind of
some
lays
people
out.
are kind of drawing a comparison where Trump, back when the Republicans held the majority in terms of the Senate,
Yep.
wanted to on repeated occasions end the filibuster, and Mitch McConnell was kind of like, no, we shouldn't do that because if we do that, there's an opportunity down the line of, for that to bite us in the butt,
Oh
right?
yeah, it's the
And
same
I
thing with
can,
first past the post, where you don't want to get rid of first past the post because it helps you get elected.
I can draw an example of that with like a Harry Reid. Back when Obama wanted to get more judges through, Republicans were playing hardball,
Yep.
so they lowered the voting threshold for judges, and that's what helped get Trump 3 judges through,
Yeah,
like in
exactly. Yeah.
4 years, which
So
is
this is
crazy.
So this is just sadly like political, like footballing or whatever the fuck I don't forget what the stupid term is. Like basically just typical shenanigans. Yeah, I guess that's a better word. This is political shenanigans. Best way to stop that is you just go out and fucking vote. If you get as many votes, like the filibuster doesn't matter if the entire house is filled up with Democrats, right? So
Yeah, the better way would be to go in 2020. I think I would prefer it to just get more Democratic senators rather
yep.
than going about it, ending filibuster, doing a commission, packing the court. I don't
Well, I
like
think it's
the
important. Like, I agree with you for the most part. I think it's still important to get rid of the filibuster just because you're supposed to be a representation of your population. So if 51% of your population wants to do something, then you do that thing instead of
it
having to be
just seems
60%.
it just seems kind of hypocritical to me that you're going to call the previous president a fascist and authoritarian, and yet his party was able to convince him not to do an action that would allow
Well,
him
I
to
think people
force
are calling
through
him a fascist is that
major legislation, and then becoming a president who he represents as a uniter. And there are powerful voices within his party that want or support ending a filibuster, which would unilaterally allow him to pack the court and impact Supreme Court rulings and pass major legislation. I don't know. I don't feel good about that, to be honest with you.
well, you can separate the issues. So like you can want the filibuster down and also disagree with packing the court. And I think people mostly called like Trump more of a fascist, not because he wanted to end the filibuster, but because of the amount of fucking executive orders and shit that he just wanted to send over the heads of the rest of the House and Congress, right? So like, so that's why he gets called more of a fascist, because he just wanted to do things his way and get them passed through his like executive. Either he would do it by executive action, or like he would find some way to weasel it around the Senate, and like Mitch McConnell helped him in that in any way he can. And now the Senate, well, not really now, but while like the election and stuff like was going on, Mitch McConnell like did his best to block shit and not allow stuff to pass, and that's what they did with Obama with his Supreme Court nomination. They blocked it and didn't allow it to go through until like didn't allow it to go through at all until the election happened, and then he lost, so it didn't happen at all. So this is just typical political
But
shenanigans. And
Mitch McConnell did also use the argument that Joe Biden did, funny enough, like way back when in the 90s, that we shouldn't have a Supreme Court confirmed during an election year. So this is kind of like the thing where,
well,
like,
yeah, because
once
this
you
is
use
just
a
political.
political argument, the other side's going to use it when it becomes politically convenient to them.
Yeah, 100%. Because this is what political shenanigans is. So you kind of have to mostly ignore this crap because it's just bound to happen. Of course, when the Republicans aren't in power, they'll vote against packing the courts and removing the filibuster because it'll hurt them. But the moment they're back in office, right, they're gonna want to pack the courts and they're gonna want to fucking remove the filibuster because it makes their job easier. So like this
Like
is
you
just.
say that, but how come they didn't do that when they had the opportunity to?
What do you mean, like?
Because they could have ended the filibuster, then voted on, hey, let's expand. We have a 6-3 majority. Hell, let's make it a 9-3 majority or
Well, I think
12-3
because
majority.
because Trump wanted to do that, but I think Mitch McConnell has a little bit more of a political brain. So what he was thinking is that, okay, we can do this, but the problem is that this is a very this is a very chaotic presidency. We can easily see us just losing the Senate in fucking one election. So if we keep the filibuster, then we can keep the Senate even if we just have 40%, right? Because like when the blue wave happened and the filibuster was gone, then the Senate is fucked, right? Like right now, the Senate, you would not be able to do anything, but the filibuster is still there, so Republicans could block stuff because they only need to have they only need to take up 40% of the seats.
Yeah.
So I think that's Mitch McConnell having a little bit more of a political brain, unlike Trump, who's just like, I need to get this shit done now. Okay, so I need it done now. And the easiest way for me to do this is to remove the filibuster. So get that shit fucking out of my way so that we can vote on this bullshit. These Democrats are fucking blocking my shit. Get it the fuck out of here. Also like move this fucking, because also it happened with the Supreme Court judge. Now I don't really care that the Supreme Court judge got in, whatever her name was, but it's funny that
Barrett Conan.
yeah, Amy Barron Cohen. Like it's funny that when Obama was in office, right, that they're trying to block his nomination as much as possible. Trump is up for election in less time, right? I think Obama had like a whole like 6 months or something yet, and Trump had like a month or two before the election started, and they're like, fucking send her in, get her through. So it's just funny. That's just political footballing. You kind of have to ignore it. Easiest way to deal with that is just go vote and get as many fucking candidates in the Senate and stuff as possible, because then you don't have to worry
That's
about
a better way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think in terms of fairness, the filibuster should be gone, because in a perfect world, you want to represent your majority, and 51% is a majority of your country. Not like 60% is a majority, but if 40% can block shit, that's not cool. Like
in terms of states, you can make an argument, because every state gets 2 senators. Not in terms of population, because Democrats usually represent more people in the country, because Democratic states tend to have more people.
Well, that's what I'm talking about with a representation. I'm not asking for like direct democracy. You would still have the same the separation, like what you're talking about. You don't want, because there's more Democrats in the states. You don't want them to have. You want the states to be represented. I still want that too. It's just that it shouldn't be that 40% of the states get to control 60% of the states, or 59.9% of the states, right? That's all I'm saying.
I understand. I mean,
is that if 51% of the states want to do something, they should be able to do it. I don't mean like 51% of the population. I guess it's a better way to look at it, because you do want to look at it more from a state's perspective.
Yeah, I understand that. I kind of look back onto like why the filibuster exists, and it was kind of used as a way to force both sides of the political party to compromise, because like in America, it's like our system is designed to be like an elephant, very slow moving, kind of lackadaisical, takes a really long time to get where it's going, but when it moves, it has a big impact, right, on everything. Like it leaves a really, really big footprint.
Yeah.
So it's like made that way to like kind of be like slow and encourage bipartisanship, so that like a section of states based off population, or based off even the majority itself, doesn't have like full dominating power.
Yeah, no, for sure. I pretty much agree. That's like, I don't want the United States. I mean, it doesn't really matter what I want, because I'm fucking Canadian. We deal with stuff slightly differently. I mean, we do have like in Canada, we vote for a representative from our district that then goes to represent us in the party nationally. That's how our parliamentary system works.
So it's separate. So in your system, it's you vote for a guy, and then that guy goes and votes for another guy.
So yeah, so Justin Trudeau is our prime minister, right? But he's not the leader of the country. The party is the leader of the country. He's just the leader of that party. So you have people like whips and stuff like that, where basically there are hundreds of people in the Liberal Party, the party that Justin Trudeau is part of, and those hundreds of people represent the voters of the party. So what happens is the city that I'm in, there's a riding that encompasses like where I live, like a box is drawn around me. I vote for that riding. That riding has a representative. That guy, whoever gets voted in, let's say it's Liberal. I think it was a Conservative for the past election, but let's say it's a Liberal guy. That guy then joins Justin Trudeau's party and has a seat in the Senate in Ottawa. And that's how like that works. So like Justin Trudeau doesn't run our entire country as like a single person. His party runs the country, and then we also might, depending on if we're a more minority or majority government, you also have to get like coalitions and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a complicated system, but it works really well.
But don't you vote directly for your prime minister?
Nope, we vote for a party.
Oh my lord, that's way different in America.
Yep. I vote for a guy who represents the Liberal Party, who is the Liberal Party.
Wait a minute, but it's gotta be like, is it how far? How early into it is decided like who's going to represent us? Like, do you know like initially like the guys that's going to represent the president in like the election, or is it like you kind of like vote for a guy and those people decide later on?
The guy who does my writing, I think I can fucking search it up somewhere, is that person for like a very long time. Like they'll switch them people. Like it's not like a guy who just shows up. Like this is so like it's like here's the Liberal Party. There are however many writings, the max amount of writings you can have. Those slots will get filled up by people, and they run in different writings. So I can go up and be like, I want to run. I'm running in fucking, I don't know. Hold on, let me just quickly Google something. Oh God, how do I even Google this?
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, basically like there are sections of Ontario, sections of each province that are cut up, and a person runs that, or a person is a leader, a representative of that riding. So the same way you split up districts and stuff like that, a district is run by a guy. I vote on that guy. That guy then gets to go to Ottawa and represent my riding. And that guy is part of the Liberal Party, and that party is led by Justin Trudeau, and he is the Prime Minister because he leads that party.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's complicated. I was gonna try to Google like who the fuck runs my writing, but it's hard to like explain. But yeah, I mean, I really like the system. I like the parliamentary system, but the I guess representative. Well, ours is still representative democracy. To whatever the more political term is for.
I have a question. You're since from Canada, can you explain to me, I think I've heard about this thing about Quebec wanting to be independent. How big is that movement really?
That movement is in terms of actually leaving Canada, really small. In terms of like Quebec being its own thing, pretty large. So in the past election,
really?
Yeah, there's a party called the Bloc Québécois, and basically they're a separatist party. So they have no ridings in any other province besides Quebec. So basically, it's physically impossible, literally, like numerically, mathematically impossible for them to win an election because they don't have ridings outside of Ontario. Also, another thing with Quebec is that they haven't signed our constitution yet. So Quebec is not in our haven't signed on to our constitution. So they can do some funny stuff with the law where they don't have to follow certain like federal rules kind of a little bit.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
Yeah, they're not part of they haven't signed the constitution. They're part of our union.
Canada's been like a country for like what, 300 years? Probably?
Something. Well, we had our constitution ratified in 1980 something. So we had our original constitution back in the 19.
Oh yeah, my brain, because I'm thinking about it in American terms. Like in America, we don't like our constitution is like viewed as like a living, breathing document. So we have the original, and then we just add on stuff to it. We don't like make a new constitution altogether like other countries.
Well, typically
so,
we don't really do that either. It's just that we had the most recent ratification. Like basically, we had an original constitution that that was mostly given to us by the UK. So when we got like the one that was ratified in 1987, I think it was, whatever the fuck, like not that long ago, is like our official constitution, and that one will probably not change for like hundreds of years to come. It's just that we wanted to, remove some of the stuff that the British fucking gave us. So basically, like officially, we became a country in like only like 1980s, but we were a country since. We got our independence after World War II from the British. They were just like, here you go, see you later. So the ratification process took from just after the 40s to the 80s to finally slap our constitution down. But yeah, that constitution, the Declaration, the Fuck, what are they? Oh my god, why am I forgetting the two most important documents to my goddamn country?
No problem.
Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the other Canadian Constitution thing, which I think has a different name, but I'm just going to call it the Canadian Constitution. Basically, we have two documents, and Quebec hasn't signed those documents. They don't accept those documents. Basically, they still partake in, like, they still have to follow like federal law and a million other fucking things. They're basically a part of Canada. They just haven't signed our Constitution because. What are they gonna fucking do? Oh, we're gonna leave you. Okay, we're not gonna let you import anything. Like, you're not gonna do any business with the rest of our country. You're gonna die off, and then we're gonna buy you back. Good luck. So, like, they just
there's like no threat though of like a violent uprising from people in Quebec. Right?
Is there a threat? Is there a threat from fucking Texas?
Well, the thing about like I've seen separatist movements like on Texas and like California, but I've seen those more of like a memes.
Yeah.
Like not really as people taking it too serious. Like you'll see like some wackos, of course, everything's bigger in Texas or whatever. But as far like the average Texan, I think they probably want to stay in America.
Yep, it's the same thing with Quebec. They'll toot their horn and stuff. Yeah, as long as you're allowed to speak French in Quebec, they're fine. It's basically about it. They have French first. So our nation is bilingual, but Ontario is Anglophone first and then French second, whereas Quebec is French first, Anglophone second. So all that basically means, in very simple terms, is that when I go to a store in Ontario, it'll say open, and then like ouvri on bottom in French. Open in French on bottom. In Quebec, it'll say ouvri and then open. That's the only difference. Like the French words appear first.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's basically like the gist of like the differences between the bilingualism between the two, between Quebec and Ontario. And then other provinces don't follow at all. Like I think Alberta is like 100% Anglophone. Like they don't have any French writing anywhere. It's mostly just, I mean, who cares about anything else besides fucking Ontario and Quebec, to be honest? So and maybe you can care about British Columbia, I guess, a little bit, but whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's how that works. But yeah, in terms of like US, we have the same problem here. We have first past the post here, and I would like that needs to probably get removed. Again, it's something that probably won't get removed because to parties that are in power, it keeps them in power because it doesn't allow you to, have your vote siphoned off from you.
Yeah. So, I think we've covered a lot. It's been 2.5 hours. Unfortunately, I have to finish up something that I have to turn into a thing that I'm doing, like an internship.
Sounds sick.
Because right now I'm still in like school. It's actually my last semester right now. I'm taking it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, don't worry. I'm still in school. I have some fucking homework, which I almost forgot to hand in. So thanks for reminding me of that. I'm
no problem.
gonna do that really quick. Fuck me. But yeah, that's awesome. Sounds good. Hopefully.
So do you have any closing remarks? You should probably plug any social media you have, anything you're on, just like to future proof it. If one of us gets famous in the future.
For sure. So I mean, I'm on Twitch at Matt Loney. That's just my name. It's very easy. I mean, if you're here and want to follow my Twitter, I guess it's the same thing. Fucking like Matt_Loney, or Matt_S_Loney, I think is what it is. I fucking forget. But my Twitter's not that important. I don't really do much on there. I just fucking scream at nobody. So yeah, Twitch, and then I guess I have my YouTube, which I think is still labeled Penguin, but you can find the link in my Twitch. Mostly go towards my Twitch if you see this. So just Matt Loney at twitch.tv. Yeah, that's most of my plugging there. I mostly just stream video games for the most part, but if ever a discussion like this arises, I am 100 million% down to do it. So
what games do you stream?
Right now, what was the last game I streamed? I don't know. I just kind of do whatever. I play a lot of like some grand strategy games like Hearts of Iron 4. I mean, I would stream Dark Souls, but I'm on like New Game Plus like 3 or something, so it's kind of boring to watch because I just destroy everything in my path. Play some War Thunder here and there. I do a lot of gaming. There's like many games. I kind of want to find one that I can just kind of keep going with. It was Hearthstone for a little bit, but I got a little bit bored. So I'm basically in the process of finding a game to kind of sink my teeth into. But
Yeah, I've played Hearthstone. It was good for a little bit, but I did kind of tire of it. In terms of games I'm playing right now, I am like 30 hours into Yakuza Kiwami, or Kiwami, however you pronounce it.
yep, I have no idea how to pronounce it. So
It's I only play N plus plus because just to play something light on the stream.
yeah, I played a little bit of that. I remember when it was just a browser game. So
Yeah,
back in the
dude,
day.
my I have a family member, right, who played that thing for so much. Like, I think we even played it at school
Yeah, no,
because like I don't think it
I
was
would go to the
blocked.
library. I'd just fucking boot up fucking N double plus and just fucking spend my
Yeah, and then it
time
came out
there.
like on like the DS, and then
Yeah.
you know it's really good. There, what else am I playing? Oh, Neo, I've been playing that as well. Um, I played Dark Souls for like 5 minutes before. I could say I'm playing Fortnite as well now. Every now and then, a Warzone barely. But in terms of like Neo, like it's kind of like I played a lot of Bloodborne.
Hmm.
Neo is just a better game in my opinion. Well,
Really?
well, well, let me not say that. Neo has a lot of things that make it better than Bloodborne, but you can make an argument that Bloodborne's a better game, probably a better game altogether. But like my PS4, I've never seen a game run as bad as Bloodborne on my PS4.
Oh
It is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, Bloodborne was weirdly optimized. It's like locked at 30 frames per second. Uh, yeah, it was pretty fucking cringe. Like, I don't know how you would release a console exclusive that barely runs on the only console you can play it on. Like, what are you doing?
Look up the definition of. I've never seen a game screen tear before until I played Bloodborne on
Yeah,
my TV.
which is fucking
It's the
crazy because
only
it's on a
game that's
console.
done
Like,
that.
the one place you shouldn't have screen tearing on is your damn console. Like, screen tearing on a PC is just a byproduct of you like having your aspect ratio fucked up and not having your frame rate synced with the game. I don't know how you do that on a goddamn console. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, in terms of Bloodborne, I'm at the part. I used to play it like when I listened to debates. I'm at the part where I'm supposed to fight Rom, that giant spider thing.
Yeah.
But that's like the part where if you haven't done like certain side quests in the game, you can't do them anymore.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
yeah.
kind of need to go back and do those side quests because I don't want them to like close up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you watch like people like on the internet, but there's a guy called DSP Gaming, used to go by Dark Side Phil. His like playthroughs on Dark Souls are hilarious.
Yeah.
They are so funny because he's so bad at the game
Oh,
and
it's
he had no idea how to play. Like he's playing Dark Souls 1. He's like, what do souls do? I have souls. I have Dark Souls. I don't know what they do because he wasn't streaming like when he initially started playing it,
mm-hmm.
and he's the type of guy where his bread and butter is playing a game as soon as it comes out, finish as fast as possible, beat it within like 2-3 days to move on to the next game. So
Yeah.
he's playing a game like hours and hours on end, struggling, trying to understand the basic concepts of how to play it. And the thing is, it still hold like these are from when Dark Souls come out originally.
Oh,
It's
I
gotta
have
be
no
like
idea.
6-7 years ago, right?
Yeah, a while
Maybe
ago.
even longer than that. But those they still hold up. Like those playthroughs, because like I still find them funny because it's like I already know what he's supposed to do, but he's not doing them. And like I haven't met like one guy that likes Dark Souls that doesn't like those videos. As long as you don't take it like serious, like oh my god, this guy's so terrible. I'm gonna rage watching this guy like fail at a game. But if you take it like as a funny joke, then you know it's entertaining to
Yeah, I
watch.
will try. I don't really take so I don't take games seriously, but I definitely cringe when I see people like fucking a game up. Like,
Okay, you might not want to say
yeah, like
it.
because like I
He's
watch a
gonna
lot of like
cringe.
if you know who like Game Grumps is, whenever they play games, sometimes
I've heard of him. I've heard of him.
yeah, they're really good. I watch a lot of the content, but anytime they play a game that I've played before and that requires like when they've done Dark Souls and stuff like that, I can't sometimes unless of course sometimes I can and as long like because they're being more entertaining than they are bad, but sometimes like they're playing it, I'm just like oh my god I can't just like don't go that way, go that way. I like backseat game and I can't even talk to him. It's the worst. So, yeah, I would assume that I probably wouldn't enjoy the content, but I mean,
it was great talking to you. For anyone, I'm just gonna plug my socials before I go out.
Yep.
It's Supermoon Mario X on that's my at on Twitter, Supermoon Mario on Twitch, and Supermoon Mario on YouTube. This of course was Mike Mooney. Oh, I said it right.
You can call me Matt Money or just Matt Loney. I don't really care. I think Matt Loney is
Matt Mooney. My bad. Apologies. His name isn't Mike. He's Matt. Matt Mooney. Thank you for coming on, Matt. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was great having you on. To my two viewers.
Hey, don't worry. I think I have
I'm probably one of them, by the way, and you're probably the other one.
I'm the other one, yeah. That's okay. I mean,
but to two viewers,
yeah, it was a fun discussion. I mean, to be honest, I was hoping that you would be a little bit more of a hardcore Steven fan, solely because of the content. But no, it just seems like
I know everybody says that.
Yeah.
They want to destroy me in the marketplace of ideas.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's not even if I get to destroy you or not. It's just more entertaining if you come out screaming your head off about Crowder. Like, it would just be way more fun. But actually, what's interesting,
dude,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say that.
I was saying this.
Oh no! Oh, I'll just go. I'll go. One thing that I find is really interesting is that every time I sometimes wonder, like I stay awake at night sometimes thinking like I don't actually know if there's a real Steven Crowder fan that exists on the planet, because every time I talk to somebody who's a Steven Crowder fan, it always comes back to either A, oh, I haven't watched him in a while, I don't really know what he does anymore, but I see clips and stuff like that and I agree with his clips, or B, oh, I'm not really a fan, I just watch because because he's entertaining or he's funny or whatever. But I don't really take his political stuff too seriously. I'm like, what? Like, what the hell? Like, I don't think I've actually ever met like someone who's like, yeah, like I agree 100% with Steven Crowder. Like, I fucking love that guy. It's fucking like, I don't know. Like, it's just weird. I find it a strange phenomenon.
Maybe you think of him more in the lights of like a Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. When you watch his stuff,
where but even he was like more respected.
It's a political show, but.
I know, but I think even he was more respected for like his political takes. Like you would take him more seriously as like a political figure, and Crowder wants to be taken as seriously as like a Jon Stewart was and stuff like that, or even more. Like he wants to be like the next. What was that guy's name who just recently died from like lung cancer?
I think Crowder presents himself a lot. Lung cancer. I don't know.
What was it? He got the medal thing from Trump. Jesus, what is his name? Oh God.
Lung cancer. Who? What did he do? The African American guy, Ben Carson.
No. It was the radio show host, the right wing radio show host. That got the Medal of Honor from Trump.
Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh. It seems like Crowder really wants to be Rush Limbaugh. So it's interesting that someone who wants to be taken so seriously politically, I can never find like a serious fan of his.
Crowder's. It seems to me like he more tries to emulate himself, more like a Daily Show. Like you're doing comedy skits, you're doing like studies or playing up graphics, but you're doing it you're trying to make it like an entertaining or funny way. Like you have like guests around you that you guys kind of bounce off of each other.
Yeah, but even those like the people you're talking about, were taken a little bit more seriously and had like their information was a little bit more backed up. They took this stuff more seriously. Like people like Jon Stewart and stuff like that, their political opinions were valued. And, even Jon Stewart, I think he asks questions at presidential, Jesus Christ, reporting like seminars, whatever. I think he's asked questions to like his, to Biden's, wow. Words are just escaping my brain right now. The chick there, the girl that does the stuff for the TV. Anyways, I think Jon Stewart has asked questions to political people. Like he at least on a state basis in California. I've seen him ask questions, more political questions. So it's just I don't know. It's just interesting that yeah, I don't know. It seems that Crowder wants to be taken really seriously, but it just kind of isn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's all a matter of like eyes in the Using the eye of the beholder, because like it's a lot of these comedy shows, like for example, Samantha Bee,
Oh, Samantha
terrible.
Bee is terrible, yeah. But I think, but again, everyone
She's
kind of
so
agrees that
bad.
it's terrible, right? And I mean, Samantha Bee won't say that her show's terrible, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, fuck the show!" Like, no one really like, who cares? Like, no one really takes it
She's definitely
seriously.
got some fans though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
for
maybe,
it
but
to have
I've
been
never. But
renewed,
again, like I've said, like I've never really seen them, right? Like I don't know who the fuck. I never like
they're too old to use the internet like for
maybe,
5 hours a
yeah,
day, like me.
maybe. But again, like we wouldn't take those people like that seriously. We know, like we don't take Samantha Bee that seriously, right? So it's like on the same vein, if they're, I haven't seen like a serious Crowder like fan and stuff like that, or like people don't really seem to take him that seriously, but he
Well,
seems to take himself really seriously.
I think part of it is that there's no one really on the right that's doing what Crowder is doing. Everybody on the right does more serious content, or yeah, everyone on the right just pretty much does more. He's the only
Yeah,
like big person that does a semi like. So it's kind of like Fox News, right? Whereas like the only like major Republican catered to network that's like on cable news. So if you cater towards their ideas, that's your one stop shop to go. It's kind of similar in Steven Crowder, where if you enjoy that kind of content or as political commentary that's mixed with comedy in there, like he is your one stop shop. There's no one nearly as big or known as him that does even remotely similar content to him. So he's got kind of like a monopoly within that niche of like a Republican like Jon Stewart or a conservative version of John Oliver.
yeah, yeah, and you're probably like 100% right. It's just that all I'm saying is like the kind of uh the mindset of it all is that he does these weird things. It's like basically his show in terms of how it's kind of perceived by other people and in terms of his own words doesn't really have that kind of like that like straight arrow pointing at something like, oh, this is what this is. He does a lot of like he'll say something that's very politically driven and then he'll be like, well, I didn't mean it, I'm a comedian. It's like, okay, like he goes on that weird kind of racist tirade about black farmers and he's like, well, it was a joke, I'm a comedian. It's like, okay, but then you tune back in later and he's making a very strong opinion about like abortion or something. And it's like, well, should we take you seriously or is this another joke? Like, or are you a comedian? And it's like, well, no, you should like take me
Well,
seriously here, but don't take me seriously here. It's like, okay.
well, the way I view it is that he has certain opinions that he does believe in,
Mm-hmm.
but then he uses comedy to convey them to like his audience, and that sometimes that comedy, I keep pronouncing it wrong. I got cotton mouth. That comedy comes off offensive or weird or bad, and of course, part of comedy is subjective. People have different views on what's racism and what's sexism or not. So, in my opinion, because I'm sure some people would probably say that what he's doing is hilarious or funny, right? So, like my view on it is that sometimes his comedy can be offensive. That's the nature of comedy, but that he does hold some of those views that he's going for in some sort of way. Like if he's against like abortion or certain aspects of abortion laws, that's probably something he really believes in.
Yep.
But then like his comedy and jokes are like can be end up being offensive.
Well,
Right.
it's not that his jokes are offensive. What happens is that he makes a very strong, opinionated take on something, and it drives people to a certain decision, right? So, he makes a joke about abortion or whatever, or he makes a very opinion stated about abortion alongside of a joke. So now people who watch Crowder are now against abortion because of what he said, and then he can just kind of cast it off as, well, I'm just a comedian. Don't take what I say seriously. So then what happens is that when he says something factually incorrect, he can just brush it off as, oh, I was telling a joke. And that's what Tucker Carlson did, right? He had to go to court and argue that his show is, a show. It's not real. Don't take what I say seriously. And that's the
Yeah,
same thing
I've
with.
seen Alex Jones do the same thing when he had to go to court for the Sandy
Yep.
Hook kind of thing,
Yeah, he
where
had to do
he's
the same
like,
thing where
I'm a character,
I'm a
like I'm
character.
not
Don't take
real.
anything what I say as seriously. Now, Crowder hasn't had to do that yet. Probably because YouTube hasn't made him have to do that. But I feel like that's the defense you have to take. And at that point, it's like, well, okay, well, like, how serious do you want to be? Like, are you like, okay, now you're just being kind of like, if that is what happens, and he has to go to court and he has to defend himself and he has to say that he's a comedic show, well, now you're just being disingenuous, right? Like now, none of your opinions should matter, but you never say they shouldn't matter. You say your opinions, people follow your opinions, and then when your opinions turn out to be shit and wrong, you're like, oh, but I'm a comedian. Not my fault.
Yeah, think it's a valid criticism. Because like even like Destiny's been saying that a lot, like in his streams, that I was combating conservatives so hard that a lot of my audience kind of mistook that I believed in
Yeah,
certain
like they swung
things,
hard the
and
other
now
fucking
I'm
way. Yeah,
having like a hard time.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then there's like real life
so like
examples
he's
of that
like
too.
going
Like
like on a corrective measure.
yeah, like there's one streamer that Destiny used to talk to called Bad Bunny, and she used to be like a hardcore. She used to like be a gamer bro, like anti-SJW
Oh,
chick,
dude!
and now she's like a
Oh
hardcore
my
fucking like
god!
commie. It's
I
like
was literally,
Jesus.
dude. I've seen someone. I was literally watching a Bad Bunny like video that he did a while ago, like
Yeah,
earlier today. Oh my, dude! I've seen some of her like clips where it's like something like America's bad or whatever like that. So no, it was America has done more damage to the world than like Hamas or something like that. It was just so disingenuous.
yeah. There's just
And
like
then
some
she has
random
some
shit
really
that
really
she.
bad clips about like not dating black people or people that are bi. Like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. She's like I don't really care about like her like specific stuff, but yeah, like she's just one of those examples of like Destiny goes on this super hard bed and converting a bunch of conservatives, but what it ends up happening is that people who are extreme on one end, they're extreme, they're extremists for a reason. It's because they have some weird like mentality. So what happens is that when you convert them away from extreme like rightism, they fucking like a magnet just fucking slam hard into extreme leftism, and then you have this whole other fucking problem like brewing on the internet.
Completely right.
Yeah,
That is 100% right.
yeah, and it's just because people
100%.
yeah, it just seems like people kind of attach themselves to like the idea of extremism instead of like the actual ideas that's going on. And that's, it's not something you really solve, but it's just like it sucks kind of.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I've got to run. We've been talking. What's the counter at? We've been
I don't know.
talking
We've
for
been talking
almost
for a
3 hours.
All right. Yeah, I will
Two
not distract
viewers
you
right now.
anymore.
Oh, 65.
Yeah, but
But yeah, it was great having you on. Thanks for coming.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
Okay.
very entertaining, very enlightening debate. You were the fourth person to come in. The second person, I'm on multi-streaming, so it's also going to be on YouTube.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. Hopefully, I
Anytime.
was
Like just reach out, DMs.
yeah.
You still have access to the Discord, by the way. You and like the other people I've debated, you guys still show up. I haven't kicked you out.
Okay.
I'm probably not gonna kick you out. So, if at any point you see me like in a room or whatever, you can join up or whatever. Or like leave a comment or go to a Twitch stream or the YouTube stream, leave a comment, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I might do that. I mean, I'm got my own streaming to do, and I'm sadly kind of like an introverted person. Well, I will just kind of but yeah, thanks for the offer. I will maybe keep in touch with you in the future if there's anything that I kind of want to talk about. And yeah, or if I see anything that you're doing, if something pops up that I notice, then I will yeah. Anyways, yeah, so thanks for having me. It was good. I'm glad I pretty much, it seems like we're pretty cordial to each other. We agree on most things. So yeah, it's good talk.
Yeah. It was great seeing you, man. You have a good one.
All right, yeah, take care, buddy. Okay.
So this is just for future proofing.
That was fun. I was hoping for a more screaming match, obviously, but who in the fuck cares,